Hey guys, it's the WalterFootball.com After Dark Show for January 22nd, 2025. And we're going to be doing the Week 21 NFL picks against the spread for the 2024 NFL season. That's the NFC Championship and the AFC Championship between the Eagles and Redskins and the Chiefs and the Bills. Before we get into that, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. So you can see, once again, I'm wearing one of the shirts, Biden pooped his pants. You can get that as well as many others on the merch store. We had a 25% off sale the last time we looked. It is still 25% off, so you can get 25% off everything except the mug. For some reason, they don't give 25% off the mug. I don't know why, but everything else is 25% off, which is a good deal. It's pretty much what it was during Christmas. I think we had like 30% off at one point, but 25% off is pretty good. So you can do that. You can go to Amazon.com, buy my books. Jerks of the College Years is the most recent one. I just made fun of people I saw at Penn State for 6 years, so you guys might get a laugh at that. Also, there is how the 2020 MVP was stolen, which is an expose about how Brett Favre tried to sabotage Aaron Rodgers 4 years ago during his MVP race. Also, that's the genesis. You get explained the genesis of the No Cookie Jordan Love nickname, so you can check that out as well. Also, please consider super chats, super stickers. That's the best way to support the show. Last week we had John Sanders, we had Can Make an Eagle in the past slew. You guys are so awesome with the contributions, and as I've been saying, it's January, which means ad rates are at the lowest. And in December, we made almost nothing on YouTube ads. Now we make even less than almost nothing. So that is a great way to help keep the show going. And you guys have been so awesome. The contributions, I can't thank you guys enough. So just really appreciate any further help. All right, we are joined tonight by Evan Daniel. Evan, how are you? How was your Week 20? How's everything?
Divisional round was amazing. Nice to see you all. I'm in an undisclosed location, certainly not in my bunker right now. So if you hear waves crashing, that's not a sound machine. So it was a great football weekend, and now I'm out of the country. So looking forward to recapping what was, when you and I started, I think week 5, I was happy to come on the show. Week 5 was the first week. We kind of have the Walter football adopted team, the Washington Redskins, and our Redskins are still alive and kicking. So it's become like our team. Even I'm not sure if you were rooting for them to win like I was, but I know I told you last week there was one game that was outrageously priced, lined, and that was it. And they were a winner outright. So I'm very proud of our team. My adopted fake cousin, Jaden Daniels. And looking forward to getting into to this week's matchups in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, you talked me into that one. That was the one I was not sure about. I was on the Redskins when we did the show on Tuesday, and you really sold me on them. And so I increased my unit count on them. And so I want to thank you for that recommendation. That was a great one. I as far as them winning outright, I was still rooting for Detroit because I don't know. I have a soft spot for them just because I felt like I was on them way before everyone else. Like Jacob Kamaker, who used to host the show with me, he and I were on the lines before anyone else. I feel like this is like 3 years ago. And so I feel like they were the original adopted team. Like I guess the Redskins are the new adopted team, but the Lions were the original adopted team. And so it's kind of like watching your two kids like compete. You're like, oh man, I don't want to see either of these teams lose. So I guess it was a bittersweet moment on Saturday night, but it was a fun game nonetheless.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. So the football fan in me wanted to see Philly Detroit. That was the matchup we've been looking forward to. We thought that was the best matchup. It probably would have been the best matchup. So the football fan in me, even with the Redskins up most of the game, I was kind of like, as much as I enjoy watching Jaden, we've been betting on him. I kind of want to see Detroit come back and win this game, but then like that little piece of me when the turnover would happen, I found myself cheering. I found myself rooting for Washington, and I was like happy for them to win the game. I have some Detroit fans, friends, and friends of family in my life, and I do feel bad for the fans. I mean, I care less about Jared Goff and players in general, but I do feel for the Lions fans. I mean, that was it wasn't one of those sucker punch games because they were just down and out. I mean, by halftime, they certainly could have come back to win, but if you're a Lions fan at halftime, you're probably expecting the worst. It's not like you blew a game late or there was a missed field goal that ended the game like we've seen, or some crazy miracle that happened. I mean, Jared Goff shit the bed. It is what it is. I mean, it happens. That's the one thing in the handicap that we never talked about is what if Goff has one of those crazy 4 or 5 turnover games. So I didn't expect the outcome to happen that way. When I talked you into the line just didn't make any sense, right? Having that game lined over a touchdown just didn't mathematically make sense to me. Now, did I think the Lions were going to win the game? Of course I thought the Lions were going to win the game. But the line was just out of control. And that's where us sometimes handicapping games, we talked about this with Houston, the first game of the playoffs. Both of us liked the Chargers to win. Both of us were wrong. But the line was 3, and both of us took Houston +3. So sometimes these lines come into play where, if the line is mispriced and you feel you have an advantage because the spread is wrong, don't be married to a team. So us with the Commanders, with the Redskins, all year, this team has been mispriced. It's funny. You said the first show we were talking about you have an overrated, underrated column, right? And I think you had Washington in that column as overrated. And I asked you where you had them in the power rankings, and you said you had them at number 9. I think at the time I had them like number 16 or 17, right? This is week 5.
Yeah.
I said, you have them overrated. You're the one who has them overrated.
No.
I thought I had them properly rated, and they were above market value. But it turns out both of us were wrong. This is definitely a top 9 team. I think I have them number 7 right now. And we've benefited from that pretty much every single week, playing what is a mispriced power rating on this team.
Yeah, I actually have them number 7 as well, so we're in lockstep with them. It is, I guess, when I wrote my overrated, underrated column back then, I was like, yeah, I'm overrating them right now. I remember like not knowing what to do with them, just because I thought there was a chance they're really good, but then I also thought there was a chance it's kind of like they could just fizzle out and just and regress, and they did kind of. I guess Jane Daniels' rib injury played a factor in that, but they had a stretch where they weren't very good, and then they got better toward the end of the year, and then actually, despite how great they looked against Detroit, I think it's fair to also point out that Baker Mayfield didn't fumble to Jaynun to the receiver on the end around in the fourth quarter. The Tampa Bay probably would have won if the center Graham Barton didn't botch the snap on the next drive. Tampa Bay probably would have won. In week 18, they were playing against the Cowboys and Trey Lance, and they had trouble putting them away. In week 17, they had trouble putting Atlanta away at home. Like that game went to overtime. So as great as they looked, I think it's also fair to say that, okay, like, yeah, they played their A+ game. Detroit played their D game, D- game. Like that was just a really bad performance by Detroit. I think if they played 10 times, I think Detroit wins more often than not. It was just like Detroit having the worst game.
Probably 7 times, right?
Yeah, probably.
But the truth is, if a play goes this way, if a play goes that way, we can say that about a lot of games. And also, you pointed out middle of the season they had a rough stretch. It's very possible that Jaden was hurt middle of the year. He did get banged up. We don't know what kind of impact that could have had. Also, he's a rookie, so teams are now making adjustments to him, and now he has an opportunity to make adjustments back. So they're certainly not a perfect team. They're certainly not an elite team, but he is proven now, at least today, that he's an elite level quarterback, and that's something that has to be considered, despite the fact that his team around him is certainly not at the level of some of these other teams that are still alive.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, in Jared Goff, you talked about him, like that was just such a terrible performance on his part. That pick 6 that was just overshot, and then like losing out of those 3 points right before halftime. If they just got a field goal there, like they wouldn't have the kick in the fourth quarter when they settled for it on 4th down. They could have gone for it and maybe got a touchdown, and then who knows? They're driving down 7 at the end, so that really affected everything. But still, like, even at halftime when I think they're down 10 at that point, I still didn't feel like the game was over. I thought the game like really turned when Jameson Williams threw that interception. Like I didn't really understand that play call. Like I know Ben Johnson did so well with these trick plays all year, but I just thought that you're down 10. Like what are you doing with Jameson Williams starting? Like your offensive talent is so far superior to what the Redskins have on defense. Like there's no reason to do that. I just thought that was a huge misstep, and then that I thought that really cost them the game.
I actually agree with you, and I said that to somebody, and they countered me, and I agree with the counter as well.
Okay.
This is what they do. This is their team all year, right? They ran a similar, call it like a cousin of that play earlier with Jameson on the end around when Teddy Bridgewater was in the game. They ran that end around for a touchdown. This is kind of the same type of play going in the opposite direction, kind of like a fake counter left, and then Jameson goes to the right, but instead of running, he's got a pass option. Obviously, it was a bad pass. He should have just basically thrown the ball away when the play wasn't there. Great play by who got the pick? Sandstill?
Sanders still, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a great play by Washington to kind of read that, and then obviously a terrible play. But like you said, I mean, my initial point was exactly what you said. There's no reason to get too cute and do that. I also thought, speaking of them getting too cute, kind of the opposite way. David Montgomery is not healthy, and even if he is, he's not Jahmyr Gibbs. And at this point in the season, Gibbs was like a 10 yards a carry or 10 yards per touch type of player. And they came out in the first drive, and instead of going play action, throwing the ball, attacking downfield, first two plays, run, and then third and long, they get behind the sticks, and they're punting. And it's like, what are we doing right now? Why is David Montgomery in the game? Why do we have to show or establish the fact that he's healthy and playing? I didn't like that. And every single time Gibbs wasn't in the game, and I think there was a 3rd and 1. I think on the 3rd and 1 fumble, when it was what? Was it 7-3 at the time? Detroit's about to take – sorry, what was the score at the time? It was 10-7? When did Goff fumble 3rd and 1?
I've watched too much football. I can't remember exactly. I know you're talking. I know what you're talking about. But
it was 7-3. I was right. Okay. It was 7-3. It's 7-3, and it's 3rd and 1 at the 17-yard line, and Gibbs is not in the game on that play. I went back and I watched that play. Like, where's Gibbs? Give him the game. No, Gibbs is not in the game. So these are things like that game. If they get that first down, or if they don't get the first down on that play and it's 4th and 1, we know they're going for it. Very high likely, if you push pause on the world and say, are they going to score 7 points, yes or no, on this drive? The odds are that they're going to score 7 points, right? They're probably getting a first down. And then it's basically almost a first-and-goal situation for one of the better red zone teams in the league. So if you have to bet at that moment and they gave you a pause, it's greater than 50-50 that they're scoring a touchdown. Instead of being 14-3, they're now down 10-7, 14-point swing on the next drive. So I thought a few times they got too cute with not having Gibbs in the game as the primary back, and any sort of runs with Montgomery were just a complete waste of a play, and just set them behind the sticks. And it was just one of those games for Goff. I mean, once they started getting behind, the McLaurin run, the catch and run was unbelievable. But here's what we'll say about this game, and this is what we've said about Washington and Jane Daniels for the last couple of weeks. We talk about the Baker if they didn't fumble. Jane Daniels has no fumbles, no turnovers in this playoffs. He is not turning the ball over in general throughout the regular season. They were very, very good protecting the football. That was one of the handicaps we talked about before the Tampa game. They are just not turning the ball over. They're playing mistake-free football, and they're playing aggressive football. So they're going for 4th downs, right? We'll talk about that all night long. They were in this game, they were 4 for 12 on 3rd down, but 3 for 4 on 4th. So on the 12 third down opportunities where they ended up doing something after that, they converted 7 out of the 12 to get first downs. That's a major turn in this game. Obviously, Detroit had 2 4th downs themselves, but only 3 for 9 on 3rd down in general. So Washington's playing mistake-free football. They're playing aggressive football. They're playing efficient football. And you have a quarterback who's not making mistakes at all. And he's playing downfield. He's not just, the dink and dunk Tua or Russell. Russell Wilson doesn't do that, but Bo Nix, before he started throwing the ball deep, everything behind the line of scrimmage. He's throwing the ball to outside the numbers. He's throwing the ball downfield. Give him credit. And they're getting better and better and better every single week. So I am surprised that they won, but I'm not like, oh, this is the biggest upset ever. This was, This shouldn't have been a 9-point spread. It should have been a 4.5 to 6-point line, which is kind of where it is this week. Eagles and Lions are, I think, comparable teams. You may have the Eagles slightly ahead. I think before last week, I had the Lions slightly ahead, not including the Hurts injury, whether concussion, post-concussion, or the knee. But I think Washington and the Rams are similar type price teams. And now we'll talk about the spread a little bit later. I just didn't think that was a 9-point line or 9.5-point game. So I'm not as surprised with the upset as it all went down.
Yeah, I was surprised, like you were, to see Dave Montgomery right away. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs had been playing so well down the stretch, and Montgomery, I know he was full in practice, but to start the game with him, and it was pretty evident that he wasn't 100%, like you said. That was shocking to me. Now I know that Gibbs had a huge game, but he only had 14 carries. Um, that was a huge misstep as well by Ben Johnson. Who, I mean, he just had a terrible game. I know he just got hired by the Bears, but he just had an awful game to end his Detroit career. And yeah, I mean that was just really costly not to have Gibbs out there. And I did a bunch of best ball drafts on the following night after last week's episode with you. And I was pointing out that Jahmyr Gibbs is going 101. He was the top pick in the best ball drafts, and Saquon Barkley was number 2. And I kept saying, like, I don't understand this. Like, I know Gibbs is a phenomenal player, but like, how do you take him over Barkley? And so that was nice that I turned out to be right. But like, the point is, when I saw Montgomery get the first carries, I'm like, people's first number 1 overall pick's not even on the field to open the game. It's kind of weird. But still, like 14 carries, you just can't do that. And that was part of the deal. But Jared Goff's mistakes really sunk the lines. It was like the Texans game, except they never recovered because instead of C.J. Stroud folding in the second half, it was Jaden Daniels just keeping the pedal to the metal. And you talked me into over 43.5 points for the Redskins as well. So thank you for that. That was a nice win. You texted me like bet over 43.5. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I also, when they didn't score on that first drive, I took over 40.5 as well. So I had a couple of positions there. And the thought process is that the Lions have to go fast and they're going to be aggressive, even if they're on their own side of the field. And it very easily could be a situation where Washington gets the ball, like on the 35-yard line of Detroit. And if they keep their foot on the gas, they're going to score. So, we got there. We got home in the end with that. That was good. Obviously, the spread was – I shouldn't say it was never in doubt. When it's 7-3 and it's about to be 14-3, sure, I thought that was going to be one of those, Lions up 2 scores, Washington match. Lions keep foot on the gas. I didn't think Washington was going to stop Detroit, and they really didn't stop Detroit. Detroit stopped Detroit, right? I mean, it was more Ben Johnson, some of the play calling, and Goff. Just he missed the guy in the end zone before halftime, complete miss. The only really bad throw was the pick 6, right? That was just a complete overthrow pick 6. The throw in the end zone was just he was a little late on it. I thought Brady had a nice game. Finally, Brady had a nice game calling the game, and he kind of pointed out right away. So you got to lead your receivers to the opposite hash mark, to the opposite side of the lines. And clearly, Goff is late on the throw, and some of the other picks. The last pick in the game was didn't really count, but before that, maybe there was some concussion. Maybe he got hit on the pick 6, and that kind of led to something. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks with concussions make poor decisions with the football. Who knows if that had any impact? So really the Lions shot themselves in the foot, and they are the ones who didn't stop them. Washington didn't stop them. The Lions stopped themselves. So anyway, I think we covered this game pretty well. But again, the handicap going in was simply the points were too many points. Washington's good enough to score. I didn't think they were going to score 45, but even if they put up 27-31, getting 9.5 points was just ridiculous. So easy cover, and now we move on.
Yeah. Before we get to talk about some of the other games, so Parrot's asking this question. I actually got this question asked a couple of times this week. Do you think the interviews for both Glenn and Johnson helped Washington in this game? Felt like the lines are unprepared. I had some people say like whenever coordinators get interviewed during the playoffs, their teams tend to struggle. I don't have anything to back that up, but that's what people have said. And like I said, this was Ben Johnson's is certainly one of his worst games. So what do you think about this phenomenon?
I really don't think that had anything to do with the game at all. I mean, obviously it doesn't help them, but I don't think it hurt them. And I don't think they're, canceling practice or coming late to a practice, right? There's going to be a schedule during the week, and the team's going to be prepared. These coaches are going to work a little bit harder, sleep a little bit less because they're preparing for interviews as well. But I do not think for a second that these teams are at any sort of disadvantage because coordinators are coaching. And this is not the first time where coaches were, going into these games, getting interviews. I mean, last year, Ben Johnson was getting interviews in the same week. So he turned down those head coaching jobs, and they won the divisional game, and then they had a huge lead in the championship game. So I don't think any question came up last year about Ben Johnson's availability, and I don't see how it could have affected the team this year.
Okay. We had another question. Walt, you have to help me out with this. I thought Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury were terrible hires, just like you. And somehow they're doing really good. I mean, our last coaching stint. Yeah. So,
I'm
yeah,
with you there. I'm surprised.
well, I'm very surprised by Kingsbury. Although John bringing up a good point, he finally has a quarterback who isn't a Call of Duty addict, which definitely helps. I thought Kingsbury was awful in Arizona, and I mean, who knows? I mean, didn't he take like a one-way trip to Thailand or something like that, or
Yep,
some
he did.
yeah. So like maybe he learned something over there. I don't know.
No,
I don't,
yeah, and then he went back and he went back. He worked with Lincoln Riley at USC
yeah,
for a year with Caleb Williams, and he's done a great job. I mean, you can't.
yeah,
I didn't think the hire was a good hire. I didn't think Dan Quinn was a good hire either. And the players love Quinn. He's done a really, really nice job. Kingsbury's been amazing. You know what? Sometimes you have a quarterback that fits and it all meshes and works together. You could take the same quarterback with a different coach, and maybe next year with Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams has a much different season. So sometimes the
yeah,
fit matters. The coach helps the quarterback helps the coach, and you can't really give one person the blame or all the credit. Kingsbury's done a great job, so give him credit, and that's it. Kevin
yeah.
O'Connell's done a great job this year too, and then he was awful in that last playoff game, but he's still a great coach, and he's done a great job with mediocre talent, especially at the quarterback position. So it's nice to see Kingsbury doing this, and we'll see what happens if he gets another head coaching job. Maybe he's just a better coordinator than a coach and doesn't belong as a head coach anywhere.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a terrible hire, but it turned out to work. Sometimes that happens. Did you get my DM on the Redskins Eagles game or compared it to the Titans Apes championship game? I think I did. I think I responded to you, Andrew. Anyway, let's. I don't know if you want to jump to the other NFC game or talk about the other Saturday game. Before we move on to do our picks, because I mean there are only two. Like I figured we could just review what happened last weekend. Do you want to do Chiefs Texans or
Sure, yeah.
Rams?
I
Okay.
mean, not much. We pretty much hit it on the head on this one, and we both like Houston with the points. Obviously, the points moved, and again, another game where you have to watch the lines. These crazy numbers, a half a point. Who would have thought that a 9-point spread that moved to 9.5 day of the game would have mattered? And it certainly mattered a lot because of crazy final plays. So I like the Texans at the original number. Had I bet it, I didn't bet the game either way. Had I bet the game at 7.5, 8.5, I would have lost. There were other ways to play that game. We liked Kansas City. I said there was no way Kansas City was going to lose that game. And Kansas City was really never in doubt to lose that game, even though I thought Houston played a great game. Defensively, they were phenomenal. We talked about them getting to the quarterback. They rushed the quarterback well. Stingley and Lassiter, two guys that we mentioned last week, did a phenomenal job. I don't know if Kansas City had receivers caught a pass. I mean, I'm trying to think out of my top of my head here.
Where they caught a pass? Where they caught a pass?
Yeah, where they had a bunch of catches. Okay, where they had 5 catches.
Hopkins had 0
Hopkins
catches.
had 0.
Yeah,
Smith-Schuster had 0. Hollywood Brown 0.
yeah,
I mean, that was all Kelsey. When it mattered most, Kelsey's got 7 catches for 100 yards. I don't know if I texted you during this game, let's get Kelsey live. We got Kelsey live a couple of times. His line is priced like 6.5, 7.5 yards in the middle of the fourth quarter. It's like at some point they're going to get him the ball back. This is a game where I never thought Houston was going to win the game. And I hate to bring up refs, but there's something that we should know about Mahomes now. You saw what happened last week, happened in the Chiefs-Niners game earlier in the season. We joke around that the refs give the Chiefs all the calls. I get it. They do. They get all the calls, great. But what we're seeing a little bit more of is like the old New England, Belichick, Brady days. They know how to manipulate the refs. Like Belichick knew the refs that called holding more. He made sure you were wearing a certain color gloves. You're going to get away with things a little bit more. Is that cheating? Are the refs giving New England more calls? No. They just know how to manipulate it better. So what does Mahomes do? In the Niners-Chiefs game, Mahomes is running to the sidelines almost as if he's ready to go out of bounds. And Fred Warner, who's chasing him, slows up because you don't want to get a late hit pushing the guy out of bounds once he's already out. And Mahomes, like a little rascal, just turns upfield and gets like another 5 or 6 yards.
yeah.
Last week, what does he do? He's kind of scampering around. He scrambles. He slows down. He looks like he's going into a slide. He doesn't, so the defenders come to hit him. And then he goes into a slide late, and then the defenders don't even touch him, and there's a flag. So it's like Mahomes is playing coy now, and he's figuring out a way to manipulate these refs. Like, if you're going to be in the open field you're eligible to be hit, right? He's screwing around now with the defense. What are they supposed to do? If he doesn't go down, he picks up an extra 4, 5, 6 yards. And in the I forget which game it was late in the season where Mahomes was it the Houston game? I think it was the Houston game where we all thought Mahomes had a broken ankle, and all of a sudden he comes back in the game, he's fine. On the first drive of the game, he's like a 20-yard run. You remember that
Yeah,
run?
that was
They
the
trucked two defenders into the end zone for a touchdown. So what are you supposed to do? Either you don't hit him and he runs you over, right? He's not a small guy. He's not, Kyler Murray. He's a big man. He's got athletic ability. He's fast. So now he's running in the open field. You got to tackle him. But then he pretends like he's going to slide. It doesn't slide. So Mahomes is getting the benefit of some of these calls because he's manipulating the refs. So that's something to point out here. But let's be fair. Kansas City didn't do much in that game. They were outgained in the game. They didn't need to score much. And Houston, and they missed extra points. They missed some kicks. All of a sudden, that game should have been 13-13. It's like maybe Houston has a shot. I don't think at any point we thought that Houston was going to win. But that game was a lot closer than the final score.
Yeah, for sure. My poor 2008 Arizona Cardinals comparison just went down the toilet. But they outgained Kansas City. Houston outgained Kansas City by 120 yards. They averaged one more yard per play, and yet they still lost by 9. As Slew points out, I said the stat on Saturday, and it's been circulating throughout Twitter. Houston was the first playoff team ever to outgain its opponent by 100+ yards and have no turnovers and still lose the game. And they lost by 9. So anyone who had 8.5, I know Mike in the chat, I think he had 8.5. It's really ridiculous. And like it was really botched on that 35-yard missed field goal at the end because it just looked like the back door's wide open because they were down 11, they're driving, like they either score a touchdown or a field goal, like it's coming. Like if you had like Kansas City minus 8.5, like you're cooked at that point. I thought it was just fairly obvious, and then they missed the 35-yard field goal. And then on the next drive, like Mahomes takes like a 5-yard kneel down, which I was almost livid because I wasn't because I had the Mahomes over rushing yards prop. It didn't hit. Like it's not like I lost on that, but I feel like I could have lost on that. Like if Mahomes had another nice run, he took 9 yards of a negative yardage on those 2 plays. And like they had enough time where I'm like, what do they do on 4th down here? Like they're not punting it. Like I was like, are they running backwards for safety? And like then they did it. I was like, wow, that was a great way to cover the plus 9.5. So like that was a nice cover. It almost felt undeserved, but then again, it's like they should have hit the 35-yard field goal. So I don't know if it was like a lucky thing, but yeah. Sorry to hear, Mike, that you did have that plus 8.5.
I'm just not impressed. We've said this all season long. That offense had 4.2 yards per play in the game.
Yeah,
they were not good in that game.
Yeah, no, they weren't. The question is, will they improve this game? And we'll get into that when we do our pick. But
do you read it all into any rust in the fact they hadn't played in about a month?
It could happen. What I read into mostly is that Houston has a really good defense. They have great edge rushers, and Kansas City can't block on the edge. And I thought that was the key there. And I that's why I like Houston in this game because I thought that Will Anderson, Daniel Hunter had just a big advantage on Kansas City's horrible tackles. So I don't know. I think that's the big matchup this weekend. And like I said, we'll get into it. Like if Buffalo can get to Mahomes on the edge past their 2 horrible tackles, then that's a big advantage for them. But you have to consider other things. All right, let's get to the Sunday games. We had Eagles 28, Rams 22. We expected a lot of snow, and there was no snow in the first half, and then it just all came down. I live about like 20 minutes away from the stadium, so like I took my dogs out at halftime, and like it started really snowing. I'm like where is this during the game? Like why is it not at the stadium? And then like I came back in. And like it was the start of the 3rd quarter, I saw the snow come down. I'm like, oh, there it is. So it was a great second half. I had a lot of fun watching the game. A little frustrating because there were some miscues with the snow. Like Puka Nacua had to drop downfield because of the snow. AJ Brown dropped. I don't know if he would have scored a touchdown. He was like right near the goal line. So he had a deep drop pass. There's this picture you sent me a DM, Jalen Hurts not seeing a guy over the middle of the field when he took a safety. Like I'm sure he couldn't see anyone in the snow. Like it's just pretty tough. So like the snow definitely affected both teams, I thought, and I would say mostly. I think it affected the Rams mostly more than the Eagles, just because the Eagles were able to run the ball, whereas like the Rams
Exactly.
weren't able to run the ball. But it did affect both passing attacks. And so it just sucked that Jake Elliott missed 2 extra points because we could have gone 4-0 against the spread. But what are you going to do? So what were your thoughts on this game?
Well, I thought in the beginning of the game that the key to the game was the weather. I mean, I really liked the Rams in the game at the number, especially when the line moved up to 7. I was very surprised, and that was just clearly a product of the weather. Obviously, once the weather came, that game really was over. But Hurts again wasn't great. You can blame weather all we want. At the end of the day, when Elliott missed that kick, like, okay, 13, let's see how fast the Rams can score. And I'll chalk that up to prevent defense, right? There's 6 minutes to go in the game. That's not like, they're dominating and Eagles defense can't get stopped. But once they got that back door, or once they had that prevent score and got the ball back, they moved the ball. Like that was getting dicey at the end of that game. Like I really felt when they got to the 20-yard line, 21-yard line, like they're going to score. They're going to win this game. Like, all of a sudden, the Eagles are somehow going to find a way to lose this game. I was really impressed with Stafford late. I mean, Puka had a great catch on the sidelines. But I guess, it's hard to blame the Eagles because once you're up by 13, 14 points, you kind of go into, run the clock out mode. When Saquon had that big run, I told you this in when was that game? Week 12? Before the fourth quarter started, I played a prop on FanDuel, a little special. Kyren Williams plus Saquon, 300-plus yards, 16-1.
Yeah.
And I played it because I think at the time they had 235 yards. And then like a couple plays later, Saquon breaks the run, and I win that bet. So I did it again. I took the same bet for shits and giggles. Like, that's probably not going to hit given the weather. But, fourth quarter, I think I took it even actually early in the third quarter. Kyren Williams, I forget what he had at the time, maybe like 70 yards. Saquon had probably like 120, 130, whatever. It wasn't as close. It wasn't like 235 and one run's going to get me there. But Kyren had a bunch of runs. Saquon had a bunch of runs. And when the Eagles get the ball back at the 23-yard line, I'm thinking like, I need a 74-yard run now, and I'm gold. And then the next play, boom, Saquon over the left tackle, touchdown. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, is he going to slide and just run the clock out? It was like 4.5 minutes to go or 5.5 minutes to go. So it wasn't like it was 2 minutes to go. So I'm like, no, he's going to score. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, I'm thinking he's probably thinking about A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith yelling like, score, score, score. And then he goes into the end zone. I'm over by 4 yards, which is amazing. A good hit, plus 1,500 on a FanDuel special. But the Eagles, I mean, again, if you're betting these games, make sure you have the right number. I like the Eagles with the spread going into the game. I didn't like the weather situation. I thought that was a huge edge for the running game. And that's really what the game came down to. I mean, 285 yards rushing. You saw it even in the beginning game with Hurts. Now, before Hurts got hurt, he had wide open running lanes. The Rams had no answers defensively for the run game. So, and that's what the Eagles are going to bank on. That's what they're going to bank on this week as well. They're going to rush 250 to 300 yards. That's the game plan going in. I don't think Hurts was good in the game. I don't know if it's lingering concussion from a couple weeks earlier. I don't know if it's the snow. Certainly once he got hurt, he was sitting duck. If he's not able to run and avoid pressure. By the way, there was a crazy FanDuel prop. I forgot the odds were. It was so crazy. Will the Rams get 9 sacks like they did the prior week? And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's funny. Going to get 9 sacks against Hurts. And how many sacks did he take in the game? 7.
7, yeah.
So as he's getting up there in sacks, like this is getting interesting. So look out for these FanDuel props and specials, and make sure you're getting the right number because, like we've seen, and we'll talk about with the next game also, half a point matters more often than not. It's very important to make sure you're on the right number.
Yeah, I have to start looking out for these FanDuel props. The problem is like I have to do a lot of work during these games. Like I watch the games, but I'll like during this one I was doing free agency rankings and stuff like that. I was looking up free agents and writing up team needs, and so like I wasn't.
You can do these FanDuel specials during the game.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that like this, like I do that during the game. Like I'll watch the game and I'll do work while I'm watching the game. Just because I'm so limited time wise, like otherwise, I just don't really like I have to get all this stuff done, and so I'm like, okay, I can actually like work during the game, and then actually, I was eating dinner with my family. I was eating dinner when Saquon Barkley had that long run, and of course, like the TV is way behind, so I'm looking at the CBS website, and like it shows the play like 10 seconds ahead of time, so like it's always like a spoiler. I don't know why I like knowing what's gonna happen, and I see like the Eagles go from was it 22 to 28 points, and I see Saquon Barkley's 74-yard run. I'm like, I tell my son, like, Conrad, look at the TV. He's like, what? And I was like, Saquon Barkley, he's the best runner in the NFL. He's gonna have a big play. Watch. And he just watches him go. And I was like,
so you like looking ahead because it makes you look
yes.
smart.
Oh no, I don't care about looking smart. I'm kind of like.
No, I'm saying your son thinks you're like Notre Dame is there.
Oh yeah, well, I don't know. Well, maybe I don't know. My son, by the way, he's like he just turned 3. I don't know where he learns from. He's like Daddy, I'm sick and tired of the snow. I'm sick and tired of it. it's like well, I'll get used to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, just you're right. You have to get the best number. Unfortunately, if you like the Eagles this week, you missed out on the best number because it opened 4.5, then went to 5, now it's 6. And it's kind of like the same thing here. It was what? It opened 5.5, went to 7. Is that what happened? I know it was hanging around 6 for a while, and then it was 6.5 for a while. Then it went to 7. So
last week's number, the Eagles Rams.
Last week's number, yeah.
No, last week's number I think opened 6.5, and pretty much was there all week. But it was there all week.
Well, I remember it being 6. I remember it being 6.
It was 6 basically all week.
Okay.
Maybe like Friday, Saturday it was 6.5.
Yeah.
Sunday it was 7. It was not 7 until Sunday.
Yeah,
you could have gotten a 6 on Saturday, and at least push.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it opened 5.5. I don't know. I mean, who knows? But
I guess maybe I didn't write. I mean, when I wrote it down, it wasn't 5.5.
My dad, by the way, thinks that there's a huge conspiracy with Jake Elliott shaving points.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk conspiracies, and not worth discussion.
Yeah, John Bennett 5.5. Yeah, I mean,
sharp.
Yeah, no, that is sharp. I look, if someone's going to rig the game, it's A, the officials, or B, the kickers. Like they have the most influence per dollar. They're not paid very much, and they can influence the game. So I'm not saying that happens. Just saying. If you were to try to influence it, that's how you'd go about it. But all right, let's get to the game of the year.
Let's talk about the Super Bowl.
All right, Bills 27, Ravens 25. Bills got out to a big lead in this one. They were at 21-10 at halftime. And I texted
you at that halftime and said, I hope you're betting the Ravens right now. And you wrote back, I don't like the number.
I didn't like the number because Buffalo was getting the ball first. And I thought if Buffalo would score right after halftime, we'd get a better number. And I thought that's when I'd bet Baltimore. But Buffalo had a 3 and out. And then I just never got a chance to middle or whatever. Whatever. I mean, Buffalo still covered. It's fine. But yeah, I thought the Bills had a lot of momentum. And I thought coming out of the tunnel in the third quarter, they could get a touchdown drive going, or at least a field goal to make it like. The halftime line I saw was like plus 7.5 or plus 8. It
was a 7.5 or 8.
Yeah, and I thought if they scored a field goal or if they scored a touchdown, we get like plus 11.5 or 12.5 or something. So I thought that would be a much better middle because then we get 10. But no, I didn't middle. But I mean, still, it was a fun game at the end. I couldn't believe that Sean McDermott kicked the field goal there to go from 5 to 8. I posted on Twitter, and some people agreed with me. Some people are like, "Oh, you're crazy! You have to kick the field goal." I don't know. If Mark Andrews doesn't drop the ball, it's a tie game, and then anything can happen. So
I was losing my mind because that's my biggest pet peeve in these games, as I've said 1,000 times.
Yeah, that was really disappointing. What were your thoughts on this game? Otherwise,
well, so this game was, obviously it's a great game, right? Great finish, great game. These games, and we said this last week, it's impossible to really predict these games. We were both on the Bills for different reasons. And even though I told you, and I've made didn't hide my feelings that I thought Baltimore is the slightest of margins better team. And in that game, Baltimore, taking away the turnovers, Baltimore dominated the game. Now, let's be fair. If Baltimore were ahead, right, like they were early, I think they made it 7-0 right away. Am I right on that? Let me just.
Yeah, Baltimore scored
Well,
first 7-0, and then Bills came down and scored
I just want
again
to pull up
7-7.
the absolute, the play-by-play, so I don't say anything that I'm making up.
Yeah.
So if that's 7-0, Buffalo comes right back for a touchdown. That's the Buffalo that I kind of expected to see, right? The team that can move the ball on anybody, no matter how much you or I think differently about Baltimore's secondary or defense in general. No matter how good or bad the defense is, I feel that Josh Allen, at home especially, in a must-win, high-pressure situation, I think he can move the ball on anyone. And in that first drive, that's exactly what we saw. Pressure situation, you're down by 7 at home, you got to come back and match, and they did. And if they were behind in that game, we potentially could have seen that throughout the game, which would have led to a much better offensive output completely. So when I say that Baltimore outplayed them, it was really more of a situational. So we're not trying to take anything away from Buffalo's abilities or capability in that game. But the reality of the game is that Baltimore dominated the statistics. They dominated the stat sheet. Buffalo was not as aggressive throughout the game as they could have been, and maybe that's because they didn't have to be. But they were outgained 7.3 to 4.6 yards per play, which is crazy. And when we talk about, what are the differences, what are the little things in these games, the things that you can control are the decisions to go or not go. And then you have to execute, right? The things that you can't really control are the turnovers. Now, Lamar became playoff Lamar. The fumble was Lamar trying to do too much in a bad weather game, and he dropped the ball. And he basically handed Buffalo 7 points. He throws a pick that basically hands them points. And the drops and the fumbles by Andrews. Andrews had a drop early. I'm not talking about the 2-point conversion. He had a drop earlier in the game. And of course, he had the fumble in the fourth quarter when Baltimore potentially has a chance to come back and take the lead. So those little things that happen in these games, which are very, very difficult to predict, was the turning point in that game. Baltimore is -3 in turnovers. Now, interestingly enough, Josh Allen and the Bills, 21 straight games where they have not lost the turnover battle. So that's a product of their defense getting takeaways, and also Allen this year protecting the ball. Remember in the past years, he would just turn the ball over too much. Think about him talking after like Jet games or Bengal games. Like he's got to protect the ball and not try to be a hero. So credit to him for not making mistakes and doing that this year, protecting the ball. And that was really just the difference in the game, is one team turning the ball over and one team holding on for dear life. But once Buffalo has that lead, 21-10, like you said, you didn't like the number. They needed to come out of halftime and put that game away. There was no reason for that game to be close. Because at the end of the day, once they decide, and we'll get to the call to go to kick a field goal in a minute, but if that game is tied late, all the pressure is on Josh Allen. If they get the ball back in a tie game, minute and a half to go, sure, he could drive the field and get a touchdown, or he could drive the field, run the clock out, and get a field goal attempt. We both don't like Tyler Bass that much. So if that situation, I would have loved to see that situation, by the way. As much as I was rooting for Buffalo to win, and when Andrew dropped the ball, I'm like, oh, okay, relief, we won the game, we're moving on. But I really did, again, the NFL fan in me wanted to see a tie game, minute and a half to go. Let's go. Let's see this drive. Let's see what Allen has, what he's made of here. This is where, quote unquote, legends are made. So we were deprived of that type of situation, but Buffalo allowed that to happen by not keeping their foot on the gas throughout the entire second half. Now, let's go to that play call, because you and I both agree on this, and I've seen a lot of people, professional media analysts, completely disagree with us. Like, you got to take the points because you go up by 8, and the worst thing that can happen is they tie the game, and it's your ball, a minute and a half to go, tie game. What do you mean that's the worst thing that can happen?
I know.
I mean, you can end the game. You literally have a chance on this one play. What do you think the Ravens fans or Ravens players and coaches want to have happen? Do they, A, want to give Josh Allen a chance on 4th and 2 to end the game? Or door number 2 is we guaranteed to have the ball back in a one-score game. Do you take the guarantee I have the ball back? Or do I take my chances to have the ball down by 5 if I get a stop 2 yards? I mean, just kicking the field goal is absolutely crazy, because you're basically saying that the game is still alive and you have a chance to end the game with the best player in the league, potentially, if not the best player, one of the top 3 best players in the league, to get 2 freaking yards at home on the 2-yard line. It ends the game. Enough said. You end the game when you have a chance to end the game. So I will never agree with going for the field goal in that situation with those players. Now, if it's Kyler Murray or if it's, dare I say, Brian Robinson, who might get the ball for Washington, no, maybe I don't. Maybe with those players, I got to know my personnel. But if I have Josh Allen or Mahomes or somebody of that caliber, and there's very few players like that in the league, if I have those guys, I want the game in those guys' hands at the end of the game. And McDermott did that 4th and 2 against Kansas City in Week 11. He ended the game. Now, yes, go up by 2, having a chance to go up by 5 on a longer field goal, not as a gimme, and you're automatically giving the ball back to Mahomes down 5. But it's a similar situation. You have a chance to just end the game. Go for it, get 2 yards, game over. Instead, Lamar drove the field. Credit Lamar. Drove the field. Great job with no receivers. Who's he throwing the ball to? Tylan Wallace? Just absolutely crazy. He's driving the field with 2 tight ends and Tylan Wallace and Rashad Bateman. And he's moving the ball, and he gets that play, and it's a well-executed play, and Andrews drops the ball. And, yeah, who's the better team? I don't know. I thought Buffalo was going to win because they're at home. That was my strict reason for picking Buffalo. If that game's played 100 times, I really think it's like 53-47. So the coin flips, the turnovers, Buffalo allowed them back in the game and then played really conservative football. And if they play this way against Kansas City, they have no shot. They're not winning this game playing conservative football. Mahomes not turning the ball over 3 times. He's not giving the ball away like Allen did, like Lamar did. Allen's going to have to play like an MVP and put up points to beat Kansas City. They play the way they played this week, not going to happen. Speaking of half points, by the way, we talk about the over-under in this game, 51.5 or 52.5, depending on where you shop. Final score, 52.
Yep.
So half points matter again.
Exactly. With that call, well, first of all, I thought because they went for it in the Kansas City game, I thought for sure they were going to go for it. I was so surprised that they went for the field goal. Like I was like, they're kicking it. Like, well, what is going on here? But I think something instructive is when you're in that sort of situation, you kind of have to take it from the other perspective because I think everyone here in the chat plus you and I were rooting for the Bills because we had the Bills, or some people in the chat are fans of the Bills. But when stuff like that happens and they're up 5 and they kick a field goal to go up 8, like I like to think of like, what if I'm the Ravens? So what do I want? What do I want Buffalo to do? For me, I want Buffalo to kick the field goal, like no doubt. Like I don't want Josh Allen to go for it. Like that's crazy. Yeah, because like Josh Allen, the MVP of the league, it's 2 yards to end the game. And even if he doesn't make it, you're stranded at the 2-yard line. Like you're right up behind, like right near your own goal line. Like that's a tough, it's a tough road to go. Like without your top 2 receivers.
It's all about percentages. Yeah. And I watch live lines because I love watching the live lines. As I'm not like you. I don't want to see the live line move because then I know what happened in the play. But I'll look at the live line and then kind of look away. And Buffalo was a massive favorite before 4th and 2. Massive favorite. The minute they kicked the field goal, they were not a massive favorite. That money line was like a standard minus 250 at the time or minus 300. It wasn't like minus 1,000. If I'm the Ravens, to your point, you're giving me, if you said, John, hey, what do you want us to do here? You want the ball back down 8 or you want us to go for this? It's like there's not a chance in hell. John Harbaugh says, hey, you know what? I'll take my chances from the 2-yard line and I'm going to stop Josh Allen. How about just you take your 3? You don't even have to attempt the field goal. We'll give you the 3. You give us the ball in the 30 and we'll call it a day. Yes.
Yeah. You get a chance and you gain 28 yards basically on the next drive. It's a no-brainer. If I'm the Ravens, like, whew, that's thank goodness they didn't go for it.
Even the guys in the chat now who are telling us that no, they should have kicked. Does anybody believe that John Harbaugh would have said, you know what, go for it? I really don't think anybody can honestly say that to themselves, that John Harbaugh or any Raven fan or player would have said, you know what, I'll take my chances versus the guarantee of getting the ball.
Yeah. And look, and like you said, it's all about the personnel. Like if the Ravens were playing I don't know, Spencer Rattler. He'd be like, okay, yeah, go for it. I don't think you're going to go.
Absolutely.
But, you're playing the MVP of the NFL, like Josh Allen. Like, I think there's a good chance he scores. I know he got stood up on the prior play, but still, I think there's a better chance he scores than not. Yeah. Although, I think on the prior play, like, how do you not tush push? That was a huge misstep as well.
Yeah, it was a bad play, and that's probably why they kicked.
Yeah. They I thought they made a mistake there, but they did win. It took a 2-point drop by Mark Andrews, who had one of the worst games of his life, maybe the worst game of his career, with the 2 drops and the fumble. Just got to feel bad for him, but he's paid a lot of money to make the plays, so you can't feel too bad. But all right, I think that we can go on to the Week 21 NFL picks, unless there's anything else you want to mention.
No, that's good. I think we hit it all.
Okay, so we have the NFC Championship is first. It's 3:00. The Redskins are at the Eagles. The line open Eagles -4.5. It's up to 6. I like the Eagles a lot here. I think that this is a pretty simple handicap because people saw what they saw with the Redskins on Saturday night. They were very impressed. The public is all over Washington, and by the way, the line is moving up. So I think that. Again, I mentioned this earlier. I think people are quick to forget that if Mayfield doesn't fumble on the end around the Jalen McMillan, or if Barton doesn't screw up the snap, then the Buccaneers beat the Redskins, and we never see that upset happen. In fact, we see different matchups in round 2. In Week 18, the Redskins almost lose to Dallas. Week 17, the Redskins almost lose to the Falcons. Michael Penix's first road start. They almost lose to Atlanta at home. And I know Washington's had some very impressive games this year. So I don't want to say, I'm not saying they're a bad team by any means. We both have them 7th in our power rankings, but the remaining 3 teams are 1, 2, and 3 in my power rankings. This is not even adjusted for other teams losing. Like, this is what I've had. Actually, no, I think I flipped Lions and Chiefs because the Lions just have too many injuries. Still, the other 3 teams are top 4 teams. Washington is 7th. I think they are a clear tier behind the Eagles, Chiefs, and Bills. I have the Eagles, Chiefs, and Bills in Group A. I have the Redskins in Group B. And so I think this line, and you said this, I think the Redskins and Rams are even. The closing line last week was 7. Eagles are -7 over the Rams, and they cover that spread if Jake Elliott hits those extra points, or if Hurst doesn't take a safety in the end zone, or if A.J. Brown doesn't drop that touchdown, et cetera, et cetera. I think that, or if the Dallas Goedert big play doesn't get called back because Becton ran downfield. Like, there's so many things in that game that it could have been a larger margin for the Eagles. I just think the Eagles are just a lot better than the Redskins. In the first game, they dominated the game, and the Redskins just made it close on a garbage time touchdown drive at the end. Jane Daniels hit Zach Ertz for a touchdown at the end, but like the Redskins weren't doing anything, and the Eagles are good. They're really good against defending scrambling quarterbacks. They're great against the run. They're great against the pass. Quinny Mitchell should play. He was out for most of that Rams game. It feels like the Eagles are just a class above Washington, and so I like them a lot at -6. I wish I could have gotten 5 or 5.5. 6 didn't appear until today when I wrote up my pick, and I think I'm going to lock this in. If there's no concern with Jalen Hurts, that's the one caveat here. We just don't know Jalen Hurts' status right now, but given the way the line's moving, it has. I think that's telling me that Hurts is okay. I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on that, but I do like the Eagles a lot in this game. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I'll start with my pick, and my pick is Redskins plus the 6. And
okay.
I'm not sure I'm ready to pick the Redskins to win the game, although I might, and that will probably come down to reading a little bit more about Hurts. I'm going to make the assumption that Hurts is fine. I think the line suggests he's fine, but if he's not fine, now you're playing with like a free roll, because if he's hurt, if he's limited, and he can't be explosive, and he can't avoid pressure, they're in a lot of trouble. At least they'll just become a completely one-dimensional team, which might be just fine, given that Saquon in 2 games against the Redskins has 300 yards rushing. I think he has got 296 yards rushing. I think it was 150 and 146. So that's a big, big problem. It was a problem last week for Washington's run defense. It was a problem the week before. They were better the week before against Tampa, who is a pretty good running team, but they still gave up over 200 yards last week. And we know that they're going to get gashed in the ground. But if they're one-dimensional, it gives them a fighting chance. So I'm going to make the assumption that Hurts is fine. And if he's not fine, you're playing with a little bit more house money. I'll go to my power rankings because you mentioned power rankings. Obviously, I have Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, Detroit, and Philly as my top five, call it my tier A, top five teams. Washington, like you said, and like I mentioned earlier, slightly behind them. So I have these two teams 3 points difference on a neutral field. I give Eagles 2. My top five teams, I give 2 points to for home field advantage in the playoffs, which brings me to a 5 spot. And then because it's a divisional game, and because generally the way my numbers work is if it's between 3 and 7, it kind of drops a half a point. Anyway, so I think this line is more like a 4.5 line than a 6 line. So I have a little bit more of a power rankings edge towards getting the points. Obviously, I mentioned before they've been my darling for the last 3 months. So I'm getting the points with a team that I think is a live team. Now, why do I think they're a live team? Let's look at the offensive side. So blitz. Last week when Stafford was blitzed, he was blitzed 15 times. He was 9 for 15, 86 yards with a PFF grade of 64. Pretty bad, right? Jaden, when he was pressured, when he was blitzed or under pressure, he was 7 for 9, 106 yards. And when he was blitzed, he was not 9 for 15. He was 12 for 15 for 200 yards and a touchdown with a PFF grade of 92. So huge difference when you're blitzing and bringing pressure against what we saw last week, Eagles against Stafford, again with weather, and now what we're going to see potentially this week with Jaden. So I'm very curious to see what happens with the blitz. Now in week 16, when Jaden was pressured, in week 11 he was only pressured 5 times, blitzed 5 times. In week 16 he was blitzed a lot more than that. He was 11 for 19 against the blitz, 178 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Now, when we talk about the last time they played, which, Washington came back, good performance, they won. The first thing you will say, and the first thing most people will say, is Hurts got hurt. Of course he did. That's true, right? It was 21-7 at some point, I think, when he got hurt. So they had to call it a commanding lead in the game. But give credit to Washington's offense, who, despite having 5 turnovers in the game, which is very much unlike them, we've pointed out how good they've been protecting the ball. They had 5 turnovers. They were -3 in turnovers in the game. They still came back and won that game. So I know Hurts wasn't there, and the Eagles probably win if Hurts does not go down. But we have to give credit to what happened at the end of the day. At the end of the day, where Washington found a way to come back. So I'm not as high, even though I do like obviously Philly's defense. I think Daniels can make plays. What they've done a lot, they've gone 5 wide. And I've seen this now with Buffalo also. Cliff Kingsbury's doing this with Jaden. I've seen Buffalo do this. They do this a lot. They're going to go 5 wide. It's an old staple of Cliff Kingsbury. And what it does is, with most quarterbacks, it takes the running back out of the backfield, which takes away a protection and also takes away the threat of a run. Not with Allen and not with Jaden. Both of these guys, the threat of the run is still there, and it forces the defense to kind of whine it out. And we're going to see how many times in the game Kansas City does this against the 5 wide set, and how the Eagles match up against the 5 wide when you do have the threat of the run. So I think the blitz handling the pressure is going to be huge for Washington to be able to move the ball and score. And what do they want to do? The same thing they did against Tampa. Run the ball, run clock, make the game a 1-possession game, try to force a turnover, force Hurts to have to throw the ball. And then I think this game can easily be a 1-score game. Now, I am very concerned, obviously, with the run game. That's proven to be a problem. It continues to be a problem for Washington's defense, and it continues to be exactly what the Eagles want to do. They don't care if you know what's coming. The ball's going to Saquon. He's running the ball, and he's probably going to give you 150 to 200 yards. Can the Redskins keep up? Can they make this a 1-score game where it's a 6-point game late, and Jaden's got a chance to go and win the game? So I'm not ready to say that Washington's going to win. I think they can win. I like the points.
I'll say this, you were talking about how Jaden Daniels was so much better against the blitz. And I mean, he was great against the blitz against Detroit, but I mean, all blitzes aren't created equal. I think that the Eagles' defensive personnel is so much better than Detroit's personnel, and the Eagles actually don't blitz that often. They blitz at the 5th lowest clip in the NFL. Blitzing 15 times. I think they blitz at I would actually pull up the number exactly and tell you what it is. I think they blitz at It's 15% of the time, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, it's 19% of the time, which is the fifth lowest. Jaguars, Packers, Colts, and Niners blitz. We're the only teams in the NFL that blitz.
Yeah, and that's why I was very interested to see what they did because they were two contrasting defenses. They blitzed a ton in Week 16, didn't blitz at all in Week 11.
Yeah, kind of weird. So I don't. Seeing how Daniels dissected the blitz, I don't think they're going to blitz that often. I don't think they need to. Washington's, they've some good offensive linemen, but the right tackle situation is not very good. Left tackle is kind of flimsy. I think they can get by the offensive line without really blitzing Daniels. And Daniels didn't really run very much in the first meeting. I think he only had like 19 rushing yards. The other thing is that Daniels was great in that second game, as you said. But as I think as Cinder pointed out here, I can't find the comment, but Kenny, if Devontae Smith catches the ball, Daniels never even has that final drive where
yeah, that's true. That's
so,
true. And on the previous drive, Jaden threw a pick.
Yeah,
and he got a second chance because Devontae dropped the ball.
Yeah, and that was with Kenny Pickett too. So, who's not even the second best quarterback on the team, by the way, is Tanner McKee, the Irish assassin. The other thing, I just think that Saquon Barkley is just going to have a dominant performance in this game. Like he just ran for 205 yards against the Rams. The Rams were ranked 8th in run defense EPA heading into the game.
No, he's been playing like an MVP, no question.
Yeah, Redskins are 20th. The Redskins are 20th against the run. So it's just, I don't know. What it really comes down to for me is if Hurts is healthy. If he can't move at all, then yeah, the Redskins definitely have a chance to win. But if he's 90 to 100%, then I think I'd love the Eagles at that point. So I do want to lock this pick in, but I want to see at least one practice report. Like if Hurts is DMP on Wednesday, then obviously I think the line's going to drop more potentially. But I just don't know if I want to lock myself into 5 units right away. But if he's full on Wednesday, I think I will lock in the Eagles, and hopefully it's still -6 tomorrow.
Yeah, I like the points either way. Like I said, I really think Washington's live in this game.
Okay.
I think they're a live dog in this game. I'm not sure yet who I'm picking to win, but I know that I like the points. I'm going to continue writing my power ratings, which I think are really sharp, really, really solid right now. I mean, I feel like I've been on pretty much every single game in the playoffs, not only in the handicap, but in the line as well. And I really feel strongly that this line is overrated.
Yeah. Line's not saying Hurts is fine. I think the way the line was moving says that Hurts is fine because it opened 4.5, went to 6. I think that there is some optimism about it.
I want to see. I'm just trying to remember what the line was when they played a couple of weeks ago.
In Week 16, I can tell you right now, it was Eagles -3.5 at Washington.
In Washington, it was
Washington,
it was 3.5, 4. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they were 3.5, 4 in Washington, and in Philly,
it was -3.5.
I see a 4.5.
Okay. I'm looking at the Westgate line, the Super Contest line. This is -3.5.
Okay.
That's what I have here. So, yeah, the lines certainly moved up. I think this is a Hurts is healthy line. I
think so. I think so for sure.
Yeah. Okay. You might like them, but haven't given an actual reason why the Redskins should be in this game.
Okay. I'm sorry. If I haven't, the Redskins have been very, very aggressive throughout the season. They're one of the best teams in the league on 3rd and 4th down. We know they're going to continue going for 3rd and 4th down. They've been my number one. They're going for it. They're being aggressive. Number two, they have to execute. They continue to execute at a very high level. They were executing at a high level last week. They did it in the week before. They did not the week before that, but week 17 against Atlanta. So I fully expect them to continue to be aggressive, go, and try to get 7s instead of 3s. That's number one. Number two, obviously they've been protecting the ball very, very well. I think that's a huge factor in the game. Number three, I mentioned before, Jaden handles the blitz very well and the pressure very well. So whether the Eagles get pressure through the blitz or without the blitz, I think he can handle that pressure extremely well. I like the 5 wide sets, which they've been utilizing a lot, and using him as a runner in design runs, as well as forcing Philly to kind of widen out the field. I feel like throughout the entire season, since I think my first bet on this show was Washington over 8.5 wins, they've been undervalued in the market. They continue to be backed and they continue to get better. They continue to get more backing, more support in the betting markets. That said, I still don't think they're priced properly yet. I have these two teams 3 points difference on a neutral field, and I give the Eagles a point and a half, 2 points for being at home. So I think 6 is too much. And it's a divisional game. So Jaden's a rookie. It's not like these two teams know each other. There's a new team, a new coaching staff. So we can't go back and say there's years of history here. But I believe that the fact that these two teams have played twice already in relatively close games. I don't think either game was really like a runaway. Even though the Eagles were up by 2 scores in that last game in Week 16, Washington got the ball, moved the ball right back. And let's be fair, they still have 5 turnovers. So yeah, there was things that happened in the game that gave them opportunities that they ended up taking advantage of. The injury helped. The Devontae Smith drop helped. But they still had to put points on the board. They still had to score late. They're a good football team. Their defense is playing better. I am worried about Cosme. Cosme went down last week. He's going to be out now. So when you lose guys on the offensive line, especially no-name players, the market doesn't account for that. So certainly that's something to pay attention to. And I also don't believe that Hurts is 100%. I believe he's going to play. The question is how limited he's going to be. Is he going to be able to run the ball the way he did in the first half last week? Or is he going to not really run the ball, but just be able to avoid the pressure? So the bottom line is if he's not healthy, I'm getting a free roll on +6 because if he's not healthy, this line is a 2.5, 3, not 6. So if he is healthy, I think the line is correct. Or I actually don't think it's correct. I think the line should be like 4.5. And hey, listen, we get games wrong. I'm going to continue betting this team. But I think I gave a whole bunch of reasons why I think the spread is too high.
Yeah, I just think that, it's at some point, especially for a rookie quarterback, like you have to hit a wall at some point. I know Jane Daniels is a special player, but it just feels like he needs to just overcome this another year. Like the Eagles are the team he can't beat. Like I know he beat them Week 16, but it's no Jalen Hurts, and if Devontae Smith doesn't drop the pass, then he doesn't win. So like I feel like he needs to lose this game to eventually, and maybe they win the Super Bowl next year. I don't know. I don't really see a rookie quarterback.
It's certainly possible that they're going to lose the game, and I know you and I both don't see rookie quarterbacks winning. Yeah. But that's like saying there's 15 in a row red at the roulette table. I don't see 16 in a row red at the roulette table. Yeah. But on that number 16 roll or spin, are you going to go bet your life that it's going to be the other way because you don't see 16 in a row? I agree with you. I don't see a rookie quarterback winning either. But there are mathematical odds right now that a rookie can win, and those odds are not a 0. So sure, I don't know that they're going to win this game, and if they do win this game, I promise you I'm not picking them next week. I'm picking the AFC next week, regardless of the number. I don't think it'll be high enough. If they play Washington, I don't think Washington has a shot in the Super Bowl. But there is going to be, I say they don't have a shot. There's a mathematical shot that they have. There's a percentage that they can win, and therefore, just because he's a rookie, he shouldn't be here. He shouldn't be in this position, right? He's a rookie. He doesn't belong. His team doesn't belong. They're an inferior opponent, but upsets happen all the time. And just because we haven't seen it before, remember when Tom Brady first won the Super Bowl? Nobody saw that happening. So, this guy absolutely belongs. Does he hit a second-year wall? And are there adjustments that are made? Can he get hurt and limit his mobility, limit his running? Absolutely, these things are all possible. C.J. Stroud took a huge back step this year versus last. Can it happen with Jaden next year? Sure, it can happen. But today, Jaden Daniels is top 10 quarterback. There's no disputing that. He might be a top 6 quarterback today. There's not a lot of quarterbacks for one game right now that I would rather have playing in this game for Washington. Not many. A couple of them are still alive. Maybe there's a Burrow. Would you rather have Jaden or Justin Herbert? A month ago, there's no way you would have taken Jaden over Herbert. Now, I don't see anyone who takes Herbert over Jaden for this one game. So, yeah, he's a rookie. He shouldn't win the Super Bowl. We've never seen it before. But that's not a reason to pick against them. I
agree with that. I think that I think it was John Sanders who posted this. I can't find the comment. He asked, here we go. If you were to do a quarterback draft, would Daniels go number 5? So it would be Josh Allen, Mahomes, in some order. Josh Allen, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, right? Those are the 4.
Yeah, I would say.
And then what? Do you go? Is Daniels go number 5?
Like I just said, a month ago, I'm probably taking Herbert, who I think didn't have a great season because I think it was a product of the coaching system, which is not necessarily a knock on the coaching system, but I think Herbert's a fantastic quarterback. He just has not had the signature playoff moments. He's been bad in the playoffs. He's been bad in big games throughout his career. So he right now doesn't get that nod. I probably don't take Stroud right now. I like Stroud. I think he's got a lot of potential. I don't know. I have to think long and hard. Maybe it is Jaden.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is at this point. It's there are a lot of other really good quarterbacks, but Daniels has so much upside. Do you think the Eagles match up better versus the Bills or the Chiefs? If you're Chiefs, I agree with that. I think the Bills are the best team in the AFC. Please give me some hope. Tell me the Eagles can beat the Bills in the Super Bowl because I don't believe it. I think they can. I mean,
sure.
Look, it's one game. It's not a best.
It's going to be 3 or less.
Yeah.
Eagles in the Super Bowl. By the way, the Eagles are now favored to win the Super Bowl. Granted, that's because they have an easier matchup theoretically.
Yeah, right.
But I saw look-ahead lines already. The line's under 3, so obviously the Eagles can beat the Bills or the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, both of the hypothetical Eagles lines for the Super Bowl are -1.5, which
Eagles are +1.5.
Right. Yeah. Bills are -1.5 and Chiefs are -1.5, which is a little. I guess it makes sense because Chiefs are -2 at home against the Bills, and you give home field 1.5 or 2.
I would have KC 1, Buffalo 1.5.
Interesting.
But if Buffalo wins this week, I'm upgrading Buffalo.
Yeah, I have. Look, we I guess this is why we are different on this pick. I have the Eagles as the top team in the NFL. So I would make the Eagles a slight favorite, but it wouldn't be like -3 or anything. So
yeah, it's a pick-em. It's basically a pick-em.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, look, it's one game, Jacob. Of course, the Eagles can win the Super Bowl. I hope they do. I have big futures on them. So
I have Buffalo over Philly. Sorry, I have Buffalo versus Philly. I forgot about that. I took that as a Super Bowl matchup like a month ago, 6 weeks ago. Yeah, not bad. I have a 10-1 2-game parlay. Okay.
Yeah. Take it. Yeah. I like the salty Chiefs fans are they aren't Super Bowl favorites right now. They were actually favorites heading into Sunday because we were looking at it on Saturday night with Tom. Right. But anyway, it just makes sense because like you said, the Eagles have the easier matchup here. They were almost touchdown favorites. So like I said, if I see Hurts practicing fully tomorrow, I will lock this pick in. If it's DMP, I'm like I don't know. If it's limited, we'll see. I don't know. But I will decide. Of course, I'll let you guys know on Twitter and the site, obviously. All right, let's get to the second game. We have AFC Championship Bills at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are -2. They open -1.5. So I think this game is much tougher to handicap for one reason. And I'll get to that reason in a second. I do like Buffalo's 2 matchups in this game. One, I talked about how the Chiefs tackles really struggled last week to protect against Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter. The Bills' edge rush isn't as good, but they still are top 10 in pressure rate. They still have some really good edge players. I think they can get to Mahomes with their edge guys. So that's one thing. The other thing is that Josh Allen, I think, could have a big running game. He did the first time. The Chiefs have struggled against mobile quarterbacks. They haven't played that many of them this year. But whenever they have, they've allowed a lot of rushing yards. In the first game against Baltimore to start the season, Lamar Jackson had 122 rushing yards. Josh Allen had almost 60 in that first Bills-Chiefs game. I think Allen could do something similar. So I think the Bills and Chiefs. I make the Bills a slightly better team, but I like the matchups here for them. Now the one issue here, and everyone has been talking about it, is the officiating. It seems like. I shouldn't say seems like it is a fact. It's been proven that the Chiefs are getting some calls. Like they are getting at least 1 or 2 big calls each game. And if you look at just the breakdowns of the calls for and against them, it's so lopsided. Like there are many threads on this on Twitter. You can find one of them. And I'm sure the Chiefs supporters will take umbrage to this, but it is true. I mean, Mahomes will get some calls. And something like that could be the deciding factor in this game. It was in the AFC Championship a couple years ago when they played the Bengals. That Mahomes got that call out of bounds. The Chiefs win. If Mahomes doesn't get the call, the game goes to overtime. Like, who knows what happens? Like, that could happen in this game. And I think that's what makes this game so difficult. It's just like, you can't, like, you can almost tell it's going to happen, but like you don't like know for sure if it's going to happen. Like Clete Blakeman is officiating this game. I don't trust this guy. I think this guy's corrupt. I don't know if he's going to be corrupt for Kansas City necessarily, but I've had issues with some of his games in the past, so I just don't trust him. So I think this is a tough game to handicap. Again, like if you were to tell me this game was going to be officiated evenly, I would take Buffalo, but I don't know if it will be. So what are your thoughts on this game?
I talked about the officiating earlier, and again, this is not so much that the officiating is really favoring one team. It's that one team knows how to manipulate the refs. Hopefully, that's not going to be the case here. Hopefully, this game is not going to change on a play where it's 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 7, and it's an incomplete pass, and then there's a flag because Mahomes you blew on his head or you grazed a finger, touched his top of his helmet. Or something where he gets hit out of bounds. That's like a step late, and that's really a shame. Hopefully that's not the case. I'm not going to handicap the game that way. I'm going to handicap the game by saying that Buffalo needs to be aggressive, and this is the type of game where Buffalo, I think, is the better team. Now, does that mean the better team will win? No. Mahomes in Arrowhead, Reed and Mahomes together in Arrowhead, there's a tremendous amount of pressure on Buffalo. I don't think Mahomes feels that pressure. He shows up to play. It's business as usual. We mentioned before how Buffalo has not lost the turnover battle. That's going to be a key in this game. When we talk about Week 11, let's go back in time. I used Buffalo as a contest pick. Again, it was a home game. Buffalo was -1.5. And I said at the time, it's a regular season matchup. This is the Bills' Super Bowl. This is the game that they circle on the calendar. Even though the Chiefs at the time were, I think, 9-0, they don't care about that game. Like, that's not a big game to them. And in the prior 3 regular season games, Buffalo was 3-0. Now they're 4-0 in the prior 4 regular season games. But in the prior 3 playoff games, Kansas City was 3-0. So at the time, I'm figuring Buffalo wants to win this game. They're gearing up. They're going to go all out, pedal to the metal. And Kansas City, they first drive pick, Buffalo comes down, scores. Late in the game, obviously, 4th and 2 situation. They go for it, and they get it. They were aggressive. Maybe if they don't get it, or maybe they kick a field goal there, it's a different outcome. But that Kansas City at the time, I kind of felt like, regular season, whatever. You can have your regular season. We know when it's going to matter when the game, when the games really count. So does that come into play here? So go back and look at that game. So Buffalo really couldn't run the ball that much in that game. We know they've been trying to run the ball a lot more. Allen had 55 of the team's 104 rush yards in that game, and 26 of those yards came on that 4th and 2. Right, so that's something that they have to be aggressive. They're going to have to try to run the ball. But if they can't run the ball, they need to attack downfield. And if Allen plays the way he played last week, if they come out with this game plan, this vanilla game plan, try to run the ball, end up in 3rd and long situations, they're not going to win. They're not going to win a grinded out 23-20 type of game. That's what Kansas City wants to make the game. They want to win 23-20 or 20-17. Buffalo could put up 27 to 30 points if they're aggressive. Foot on the gas. We got to go downfield like they did in drive number 1 against Baltimore. They got to come out like they did against Kansas City in Week 11. Foot on the gas, go, score a touchdown first drive. They actually missed an extra point on that first drive. They were up 6-0 in that game, not 7. But they have to come out in the game, both to start the game, to start the second half, that they have to score. If they play like they did against Detroit, where they had to score in every possession, or against the Rams, where they were behind and had to score every possession, they're capable. I think they have a lot of matchup edges, 2 points on the board, and I don't think Kansas City, as crazy as it sounds, I don't think Kansas City can keep pace. I don't think KC's putting up 27 points. But if Kansas City gets into this low possession, grind it out, run the clock, make Allen try to be a hero, and this game is 20-20 or 17-17, 4th quarter, Kansas City is going to find a way to win. If this game is a close tie game at the end of the game, Kansas City is going to find a way to win the game. We talked about this last week, and this was the game. This is what happened last year. Allen had a chance to go ahead. Before they had missed the field goal, they had a chance to go ahead, and he was throwing the ball into the end zone with a minute to go in the game. You cannot throw the ball into the end zone a minute to go in the game. You got to run the clock. At that point, you got to run the clock, milk the clock, and you got to score last. And they ended up settling for a field goal, and they missed it, and they lost. But if they're going to be in that situation, Either they're going to miss a field goal, he's going to go too quick. Something will happen where if this game is tied or this game's a 3-point game late, you have to give the edge to Mahomes and Reed. But if Buffalo comes out, foot on the gas, they could run away with this game. They can win this game 27-17, 30-21 like they did the last game, something like that where they're ahead 7+ because they keep scoring, and Kansas City can't keep pace. I'm going to pick Buffalo in the game. I don't love it. We once said, every year it's like, oh, Kansas City's a pick 'em. Just pick Kansas City until Mahomes retires. If you can go back in time, bet Brady every time he's a pick 'em, you're probably going to win more than you lose. So here we are now, both picking against Mahomes in Arrowhead in a championship game. Crazy. I believe this is Buffalo's year. I've said that for a long time. The way Allen's playing, if he's not turning the ball over, that's the way they need to win. But he needs to go a step further. So this game he needs to play like an MVP. It's not going to be a James Cook game. It's not going to be a Buffalo defense game. Allen's got to put up 3 touchdowns. They're going to have to score 27+. And once they get to 27, 28 points, they're good.
Yeah, look, I definitely agree with everything
What was
you
your
said.
score in the game? Curious. Scroll down. I don't see your score.
Okay, let's look at what the score is. It is 27-24.
I wrote 27-23. Okay.
Nice. So we're in
But if
lockstep.
Buffalo doesn't get 27, then I win.
Yes, I agree. The Chiefs, they could do enough to get, like you said, 20-24. I don't think this team is built to get to 27+.
Exactly.
Yeah, they had 212 yards against the Texans. Look, I know I like the Bills have a great defense too. They might be missing a couple guys in this game, but I still think that they can get to Mahomes. They can limit what Mahomes does for the most part.
They got to make him throw the ball to the outside. They can't let Kelsey go 7 for 100.
100%. And they do have some really good corners, although Benford might be out, which, but Kansas City's receivers, I don't know if they can really take advantage of that. John to 411 Super Chat. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate it. Excellent score predictions. So yeah, I hope we're right about Buffalo here, because I do think that this is their year. I compared them to the Milwaukee Bucks from a couple years ago when, it's kind of like they would lose always, and it would be a big disappointment. Everyone used to be on them, and then finally everyone got off of the Bucks, and they're like, the Bucks are never going to win. And then that was their year, and it felt like this was the year. Like this is the same thing with the Bills, and even I fell into this trap too, because they lost their receivers. They lost Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis to an extent. Like not that Gabe Davis is good, but still they didn't really have any receivers heading into the year. And I thought that I like this team, just no receivers, so I'm not going to pick them. And I think a lot of people fell into that trap. And this team is really good. Their defense is great. Josh Allen, obviously incredible. They can run the ball. They have a good offensive line. They're well coached, unless they're kicking field goals at the end. But I do like this team a lot, and I think this Chiefs team is flawed. But this is playoff Mahomes, so you can certainly win. You can certainly find a way to win, especially if the officiating is lopsided. Although we do have some stats here about Blakeman. Chiefs are 5-6 in Blakeman games, 101-23 in all other games. So, okay, maybe Blakeman is the secret sauce to getting the Chiefs to lose. I don't know. Maybe the NFL knew this and sent him to make sure that there wasn't any weird plays or any calls happening. So any shenanigans. So I don't know, but we'll see. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait to watch it. And of course,
there was one more thing that I wanted to point out about this game. We talk about, and you just mentioned Spags, and it triggered my memory. Talking about blitzing, we talked about blitzing earlier and Spags blitzing. On that 4th and 2, and I went back and I was watching the tape on that Week 11 game, the 4th and 2 that Allen had, and Romo was on the call. And Romo, I love Romo because he really points things out that the casual or even a good fan who watches, and I watch a ton of football, there's no way we can ever know what Romo knows, somebody like that who's ex-quarterback in the league. And so I love watching what he shows and what he points out. And what he pointed out on that 4th and 2 was that Kansas City didn't have a spy on the field in that formation. And when they go back and watch that, and there's going to be a 4th and 2 situation, and hopefully McDermott decides to go for it, not kick a field goal or punt. But if there's a spy out there, maybe that play gets stood up. So there's going to be things to watch from Spags, adjustments that were made from that Week 11 game. So not only the spy, but also blitzing. I mean, we've seen Spags now a number of times. He did it against Stroud a couple of times on big third downs where he's sending blitz. So how is Allen going to handle it, right? Allen, in the last game they played, he was 8 for 15 against the blitz. Pretty accurate. I mean, not overly accurate, but against the blitz, not just throwing the ball away, but with an interception. So what he's doing a lot of times is he's blitzing McDuffie off the edge. So we're seeing, that quick, by blitzing that McDuffie or blitzing somebody off the edge, he's taking away that quick hot route throw to like a Shakir. Now, this is the play last week with Jaden Daniels against Detroit that McLaurin had the touchdown on. There was trips to the left, and I forget it was blitzing off of the right side, off of the left side from the offensive side, and Jaden saw it right away and hit McLaurin. And it was basically 3 against 2, and that's where they had the 50-yard touchdown run. When Allen did this one time against McDuffie, it led to a tip ball. So to see those types of plays and to see Spags, and he blitzes those guys, especially off the corners, at the perfect moments, it seems, of the last few years in these big playoff games. How does Allen respond to where the blitz is coming from? Does he get that ball out? Is he able to attack the pressure and obviously not turn the ball over? So going to be a big key to see some of the adjustments made by Spags and how Allen handles pressure and handles blitz throughout the game. So, and these are the things that I love watching throughout the game. It's like, how are the quarterbacks handling the adjustments? What adjustments are being made defensively? And are there ways to then take advantage betting-wise? But even if you're not betting the game, right? I have a Buffalo Super Bowl ticket. I have Buffalo Philly ticket. I'm rooting for Buffalo. Part of me says, it's cool to watch a three-peat potential. But like many NFL fans, I'm kind of sick and tired of watching Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I don't love this team. It's not like I love watching this team. I really want to see Allen and the Bills in the Super Bowl. I don't care who they play, really. I really want to see Buffalo win this game. So not even needing to bet it. And I really don't want to have money against Mahomes and Arrowhead. But I think Buffalo has a really great shot. And I just hope that it's not you and I talking next week of, I really wish they would have gone for 4th and 1. Those bums punting at midfield on the first drive of the game.
Yeah, I know. Slew with the 555 super chat. Thank you so much, Slew. We appreciate it. He says, I have Eagles for 1 unit at 17-1. Bills 1 unit at 6.5-1 to win the Super Bowl. Eagles versus Bills in the Super Bowl for 1.3 units at 6-1. Bills beat Eagles 1 unit plus 450. Bet strategies for Sunday.
Well, the first thing you do is you take the Redskins and you take the 6 and hope you middle.
Yeah, you can.
Because I think you have a really good shot at hitting that middle.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing you do is you put a little bit on Washington, and you don't mind if they lose, because now you're sitting real pretty because you got the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. You got the Eagles potentially to win. And once that matchup happens, now you can look to the other side. You can also obviously take a 2-game money line parlay with Kansas City and Washington. And if you lose all these futures, at least you hit a 2-game parlay.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I like the ability to middle that. So, I mean, or you could just be super aggressive and just bet more on the Eagles. It's just not even hedge. But no, I think it's good to be safe and stuff like that. So, being able to middle that, like if the Eagles win by 3, like that is the best case scenario, because then you win both. So. I like those recommendations. So I hope you win all of these. So yeah, you can't win all of them, but like I hope you win. I don't know what gives you the most return. I guess the Eagles just winning outright. Yeah, Eagles winning outright gives you the best return. So hopefully that happens. I've a ticket on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. I think it was 17-1. It's for 2 units. I have some bonus bet money that I used on Buffalo and Kansas City. So I have that covered as well. Not I have more on Buffalo than Kansas City, but still, I'm still considering hedging with the Bills or the Chiefs. How would you? Let me ask you, if you were me, and you're really confident in the Eagles -6, and and you were going to bet it anyway, like how would you approach that? And
you're talking about your hedge for you?
Yes, because I have 200 to win. I have 200 to win, 3,400 on the Eagles. That's to win the Super Bowl. And I already have some bonus bet money in the Bills and Chiefs, but not like a crazy amount.
I don't think you would Put that aside for now.
Yeah.
It's not. What are you going to cover your bet? It's not worth it. And then you'd be betting against what you thought would have happened anyway. It's not you're betting against yourself, which doesn't make any sense. You got to just put that off to the side. I mean, when you have plays that are going to win, in this case, 17-1, another 6-1, and you have a couple of different ways to go into the Super Bowl. When you have good equity going into that game, like you feel really great about yourself, right? Like either way you're winning, right? You're winning a couple $1,000s either way, or whatever your bet size is. You a couple of hundred units, either a couple of 100, 17 to 25 units potentially either way. You have a lot that you can do in that game, in-game, prop-wise, that you don't even have to take a bet on the winner. You already have the winners with odds both directions. Just sit back and enjoy. Right. So now, if you want to hedge out of that in the very beginning by just playing the points, that's fine. But your bet 200 win 3,400. You have 17-1 also. But you like the Eagles. So if I were in your situation, I wouldn't bet the Eagles.
Yeah.
No need to lay the 6. Just root for them to win. You're sitting pretty.
I know, but I see. My thing is, if I recommend a pick, I definitely bet the pick. It's like my policy.
Listen, it's not like you're going crazy, right? You're not expecting you're not saying let's put a 10 unit bet on this game and just triple your units. 5 units. It's 5 units. That's how you normally play the game. So you're not really worried about your $200 bet on the futures.
Yeah.
You probably have so many bonus bets on like 10 different teams anyway going into that game.
I know. I had a lot on the Lions too. I'm really disappointed because if the Lions got here, I'd have props, or I'd have, like, no matter who won the Super Bowl, I'd win money. Like now it's like I don't expect the Redskins to win, but still, it kind of sucks that that got eliminated. Anyway, so John saying the Redskins were 150-1 to win the Super Bowl in the preseason. Imagine if you had that ticket. How excited would you be right now?
Because I sometimes throw away some money when I'm in Vegas in August. You and I have talked about some things that I've done. 99% of my bets are like legit, running back unders, prop unders, season wing futures. I'm not necessarily looking to throw long shot bets, but some of the bets that I regretted not making, like I joke around that Vegas is my local team. Like I'm not a hockey person. Mm-hmm. But when the Vegas Golden Knights started, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to bet the Vegas Golden Knights. And then I never did. And then I forgot about the even idea of betting them. And then they made the playoffs, and I don't watch hockey at all. I'm like, shoot, I could have had 500-1 on this team. Meanwhile, I'm betting Jaden Daniels all year at LSU. And I said he's going to be a great quarterback. And I joke around that he's my cousin. My family, we refer to him as Cousin Jaden. Even though he has an S at the end of his name, I don't. Notice there's no S at the end of my name. But we refer to Jaden Daniels as Cousin Jaden. And it never even crossed my mind to take a bet on Washington to win the Super Bowl or to win the division for that matter. I had a lot of money on. I had 2 teams to win the division this year with real money. I had the Eagles to win the division, and I had Kansas City to win the division, and I parlayed them. So I had each separately, and I parlayed them, and I said, I don't see any chance that these 2 teams are not both winning their division, barring injury. So obviously Mahomes goes down, they're not winning the division. I thought Saquon would have a monster year, but I didn't really factor Saquon injury. I figured if Hurts goes down, they're probably not winning the division. But I never even considered the idea of betting anything on Cousin Jaden. And as I'm betting the Redskins all season, since week 3 or 4 on the season win totals and taking them in contest every single week and betting them every single week, I never even thought about betting this team to win the NFC or make the Super Bowl or anything. I didn't even look at them. They were just a complete skip over. I look at Detroit, look at Baltimore, look at Buffalo, Kansas City. It's not fair on the pricing. It's not worth it. It's like, forget it. Not for a second did I consider betting Cousin Jaden, and I'm pissed off that I never thought about it. Because for fun, I should have had a $50 bet on Cousin Jaden to win the Super Bowl or to win the MVP or some crazy things on him. Just to, hey, throw away a couple of bucks here and there.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a $7,500 ticket on your cousin right now. Yeah. Is the day of the pocket pass officially over? I mean, well, Burrow is I guess
I say this a lot. Burrow is very good in the pocket. He's very good moving in the pocket. It's not. I don't necessarily need a quarterback who can run for 40, 50 yards like Allen, Daniels, or Hurts, or Lamar, or even Mahomes. But I need a guy who can move in the pocket. And this is one of the things I like about my quarterback, Purdy, who has a below-average arm, who's probably an average quarterback who's going to get overpaid. I'll be the first to admit it. But what I love about him is his awareness in the pocket. Burrow has fantastic awareness in the pocket. First of all, he holds the ball with two hands. People have been pointing that out since his LSU days, that he holds the ball with two hands. So he's not walking around, running around in the pocket with the ball just loose, that he's going to have a big turnover in rain like Trevor Lawrence has all the time, or other quarterbacks who are just completely oblivious to pressure around them. You have to be able to move within the pocket, even if it's just to pick up a 10, 12-yard gain late on a 3rd and 7. If you're not, even Stafford last week, give him credit. He had a couple of runs last week that were very impressive. Yeah, you don't have to run 3, 4, 5 times a game on designed quarterback runs, but you have to be able to move in the pocket. The days of a Kirk Cousins or a Matt Ryan standing in the pocket, or Brady, unless you're Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, those days are over. I don't think we're going to get quarterbacks who have that level of talent ever again, like a Brady or a Peyton, that can sit in the pocket, diagnose exactly what they're seeing. Most of these quarterbacks don't get to the line of scrimmage until there's like 7 seconds on the clock. Peyton Manning got to the line of scrimmage with 30 seconds. He would diagnose what the defense is. Then he'd call a play. Then he might make a substitution. He knows exactly what's coming. He knows where the pressure's coming from. He's not taking 9 sacks in a game or 7 sacks in a game. He would barely get touched. Brady would barely get touched because he knows exactly where the pressure's coming from. He knows exactly what he's seeing. And outside of that level of expertise, which probably doesn't exist anymore, if you're not a mobile quarterback and you can't move around, you're dead in the water. So I think those days are long gone, but you don't need to have Mahomes and Josh Allen running ability to win. I think you can win with guys like a Purdy or a Burrow or a Stafford in the pocket, as long as they can move within the pocket.
Oh, wait a second. Quinn Ewers is coming to the NFL, so we're going to have another great pocket passer. Just kidding. Easy B, Dynasty Football Fantasy question. Jordan Love and a 2026 second, or J.J. McCarthy and Odunze?
I don't like Jordan Love, so I've made my bones about Jordan Love. I think he's very overrated.
Well, for fantasy wise, I mean, he doesn't have an elite receiver. I mean, that's one of the issues. I don't know. I don't know how your draft picks work. I would assume it's a 12-man league. So, I think I would go McCarthy and Odunze. I mean, we saw what Sam Darnold did in Minnesota this year. Now you get McCarthy with some scrambling ability on top of that. He's going to be well coached. He's going to have great weapons. And then, Ben Johnson, imagine what he's going to do with Odunze. Keenan Allen's a free agent. So if he leaves, Odunze is automatically the number 2, and I think that he probably ascend anyway. I think I'd go McCarthy and Odunze. So hope he says 12-man, 4 rookie rounds this year. Yeah, I would go McCarthy and Odunze. So good luck. I hope that helps. Purdy reminds me of Jeff Garcia.
No, not really. Jeff Garcia, he ran well. Jeff Garcia was a great runner.
Yeah.
Purdy is more of a thrower, although he's got a below-average arm, playing in an elite system. Those are two different quarterbacks. I don't see similarities in the two.
I always, whenever I hear Jeff Garcia, I always remember the Terrell Owens quote. If it looks like a rat, it's a rat, or something with Jeff Garcia.
Well, I think Jeff Garcia, I think about that Niners Saints game. That was an unbelievable playoff game a couple of years, probably.
Oh, yeah.
12 years ago, I want to say, 13 years ago.
Yeah. I win 5,300 if the Eagles beat the Chiefs and 4,300 if the Eagles beat the Bills. Not sure if I should hedge now or what.
You should also be betting Washington plus the 6.
I know that painful for Cinder as an Eagles fan. So you could middle Cinder and hope for the Eagles to win by a field goal. So short white 49ers with tiny hands. That's the Purdy Garcia thing. Was Garcia white though? I don't know. He was? I thought he was mixed.
Nope.
No? Okay. Well, anyway.
I don't know. Maybe he was.
I thought he was half Hispanic, half white. I'm not sure. Or at least I know he's from Canada or something. Not that means he's Hispanic, but I know that I have no idea. Terrell Owens didn't like him very much. Anyway, so I don't know if you have anything else here. If you want to look at any props on here, any weekly specials or anything.
I haven't looked at weekly specials yet.
Okay.
I do see my laptop has very low battery remaining, so I don't have much
Okay.
to. I haven't really looked at weekly specials. I'll probably take a look at those later in the week.
Okay. Stafford said Herbert's pocket first can scramble. Perhaps he could become a more cerebral pocket passer. Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think Jim Harbaugh can coach him up. All right. So, well, your battery's running out, so we should probably head out here. Should I play the future matchups now or wait? They void if they don't happen.
I
Eagles
plugged
versus.
in. I'm good.
Oh, you're plugged in. Okay. Yes. So, should you play future matchups or wait? I mean, you already have some nice props in these anyway. I don't think you need to.
I'll look. I haven't looked at the weekly specials, but obviously, the same game parlays have been really, really good also.
Yeah.
And that's more looking at these quarterbacks running, the in-game running. Kelsey. Where I really am curious to see where they price Kelsey this week. You may have some good in-game plays on Kelsey. Certainly with Saquon. We've taken advantage of Saquon in-game a couple times, but I haven't seen any of the weekly specials just yet.
Can you look at some Super Bowl MVP odds?
Super Bowl MVP, I'm not looking at Super Bowl MVP right now. There's no value in this.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. Like I thought, like in my first instinct was Saquon Barkley 5-1 because Eagles to win the Super Bowl, I believe, or what it's plus 175. So if you bet Barkley and Hurts,
No. You're throwing money away. Betting two guys. Now
they're
you're
both
eating
5-1. Well, I mean,
what's the money line? What's the money line this week? Let's start with that.
Okay, it is minus 280.
Minus 280. So put up $100. How much do you win on $100?
You win 35.
And now if you go even money on the next game, 135 pays 270. So $100 you're getting plus 270 right now on the Eagles to win, right?
Yes.
Okay. So instead of getting plus 270 doing a mechanical party, you're suggesting to bet Hurts and Saquon? Let's say Saquon wins. That's your best payouts. Your 500 wins. Your 100 wins 500, but your 100 really only wins 400.
Yeah.
Because you're losing the other one, so you have a $200 risk for 400.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically betting $200 on the Eagles to win $400. You're getting 2-1.
Yeah.
So you're getting a better payout by just mechanically betting the Eagles this week and next week versus taking two players at basically what amounts to being a 2-1 bet.
Right.
Sorry to be boring with math.
But you could also tell people that you bet both, and then you can
you can tell people, "Oh, I had Barkley win MVP. How much did you win? Not much."
No, I do think that like if I had to bet one of these, I think it'd be. I don't know if it'd be Allen or 260 or Barkley.
By the way, I would bet Saquon ahead of Hurts anyway.
Yeah, me too.
And I just because now if you're betting one thing, now you're basically saying, all right, but now you need the Eagles not only to win the Super Bowl, but you also need him to be the MVP. So there's a risk factor there that just doesn't make sense. Betting these right now just doesn't make sense.
I
get it. What you're saying is if they win this game,
yeah,
his payout's going to be significantly less than 5-1 next week. And if they don't win this game, why not? Because you're betting it either way. It's not a hypothetical. You're betting it now and if they lose this game, it's not like that bet gets nullified as no action.
It doesn't? If the Eagles aren't in the game, does it get nullified?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, well, okay, then don't do that. I thought it did.
No, only the hypothetical matchups get refunded if those matchups are not there.
Okay.
This is basically betting like before the season, like I'm betting who's going to get the Super Bowl.
That makes sense. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Because otherwise, then I'd be wrong. Because now your hypothetical is very simple. If you don't get to the Super Bowl, you get refunded. But if you do, now you have a better payout.
Okay, yeah, never mind. Don't bet any of these. I thought you would get refunded for some reason.
I'll give you some tricks next week or the week later.
Okay.
Some Super Bowl ways if you have multiple books to almost guarantee yourself profits.
Well, I look forward to that.
Just depends on how much money you're willing to risk.
Yeah. What were Dexter Jackson's odds? I don't
Probably
know.
Crazy.
Probably
was he the last defensive player to win the MVP?
Didn't was
No,
the Seattle player?
no, Donald didn't win the MVP. He should have won the MVP. He didn't. Cup won the MVP.
Wasn't Von? Didn't Von Miller win MVP?
Oh yeah, you're right. I think Von Miller won for Denver.
Yeah. Let's see. So we had some comments here. Well, you like the Texans plus 8.5 versus the Chiefs. Your teaser was with the Chiefs, not the Texans. I'm confused.
Yeah. I
Right.
did the same.
Yeah. Because you capture 3, 6, and 7, which are the 3 most likely results of any NFL game. And like Chiefs minus, like if the line were Chiefs minus 2.5, I'd be on the Chiefs, like no doubt.
That was just a factor of, hey, we're more confident in the Chiefs winning this game than anything else happening.
Yeah, exactly. Bet Kenny Pickett to win this would be throwing money away. I got AJ Brown to 60-1 and Devontae Smith at 200-1. Well, I mean that sound great. I don't know if they're gonna win. Like it's so hard for a receiver to win. Because usually when a receiver wins, it's fatigue with the quarterback winning MVP. Like that 1 year Deion Branch won MVP. It was like people were sick and tired of giving Tom Brady.
It's Cooper Kupp, where he basically does everything throughout the season.
Right.
And the narrative is like, this is the guy that every single third down, he's getting like 15, 18 targets. What did he have? Like double-digit catches, 100-plus yards, had a touchdown. Yeah. A.J. Brown would have to have a monster game, and Saquon would have to not do much, and Hurts wouldn't be doing much with his legs.
Yeah.
That'd be a very hard that's a tall order.
Yeah, I think if you again, I wouldn't bet these, but if you were to take a long shot with the Eagles, like I think Jalen Carter at 110-1. Like if it's a very defensively dominant game, kind of like that Broncos Panthers game was, and like Carter is like,
I don't see it.
What'd you say?
I don't see it.
Well, if it's like a 13-10 game and Carter like sacks Josh Allen a few times and like nothing happens, like
I don't see that either. I don't see a 13-10 game.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that, like, 110-1 is like, I don't know. I don't really see anything down here worth taking anyway. Especially if these are nullified.
Take a quick look this week at weekly specials. I'm just curious if anything jumps out from the weekly specials.
Weekly specials. All right. So we got each team to score 1+.
No, these are garbage to look at. Where are the player ones?
The player ones. Do we have them?
Might not be out yet. No, not these. Oh, there we go. Fans, there it is. You missed it.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Any players
to rush for 150 yards. Love it. His name is Saquon Barkley. Because what's his real total in the game? 125?
Let me see.
I'm pretty sure it was close to 125 last week.
Let me see on the different screen here, just so we don't have to keep bouncing around. Saquon Barkley's rushing prop for this game is 125.5.
Exactly. So now you're giving me 20% for 170. Love it. Plus 170. Next, Jaden and Jalen Hurts to combine for 6 passing and rushing. That's a lot for only 350. Not worth it.
Yeah. All right.
Patrick Mahomes combined for 6. That might be worth 5-1 because in that situation, I can absolutely see Mahomes getting 2 passing or even a rushing, 1 and 1, and I can absolutely see. Not out of the question. I have to think about how much 5-1 is worthwhile, but that's a scenario that's not a crazy number.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. The quarter numbers. Any player to score a 75-yard receiving, don't like it. That's not worthwhile. Saquon and Jalen Hurts to combine for 250 rushing and 2 touchdowns. That's not a great payout, but that's one of those that I would take at halftime, depending on where the numbers were and what the game situation was. Because if they're behind, I don't like it. But if they're ahead, they could just be feeding Saquon the ball. And also, that's another one where you'd want to see if Hurts is healthy. Because if Hurts is running,
right.
I actually took one of those bets this week where Saquon would get 200 and Jalen would get 100. And I was not far away. Jalen had 70 and then stopped running. So that's not a bad one. I would rather see 200 than 250, but that's not bad at 12-1.
Before we get to the next one, why don't you like the quarters one?
I don't like quarters. It's not enough possessions.
Okay.
That's why. Okay. Quarters is too hard. Half is better, but quarters I don't like.
Okay.
See, guys, skip over the quarters.
All right. AJ Brown, McLaurin each have 30 plus receiving yards in each half. Do you like abs?
I don't like Brown that much. He hasn't really been targeted as much, and he's not necessarily a main factor in these games. So I don't necessarily like Brown, especially with each half. Like, you can have a big half and then kind of go to sleep. Again, if they're leading at halftime, if the score is 16-7 at halftime or 13-10, the game plan is going to be run, run, run. So whatever it is, if they're up, they're not throwing the ball. Kelsey, it's a quarter bet. Saquon, no, I don't like Brian Robinson. That guy can't score, although he scored last week.
Neither.
Any non-QB to record a passing TV, I would have liked if the Lions were in it.
Yeah.
I don't like it now.
Yeah,
5 touchdowns is too much.
Yeah.
200
Any player to have 200 plus receiving yards?
I don't see it. I don't see 200 receiving.
Yeah.
Jalen, Josh, and Jaden to combine for 5+ rushing. I assume that's touchdowns.
See here. Yeah, 5 rushing touchdowns.
That's a lot.
Hurts, Allen, and Daniels. Why isn't Mahomes there too? Yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot.
They're giving me 60-1 on my favorite bet of the season, the quarterback throw 450. But we're not even sniffing those now.
Yeah, it's
only
2 games, so not
with outdoor games. Not happening.
Yeah. Any quarterback that scores receiving touchdown, we got Philly special.
No, just the top ones. I wouldn't. The top ones are good. They're just not great odds.
So your favorite is Mahomes and Josh Allen to score 6+.
I just don't like the odds. I mean, it's a lot of touchdowns for 5-1 payout. I think I like the Saquon at 12-1 better because if Jalen's healthy, it's not bad.
That's pretty good. 250 and 2. I mean, they got that last week.
250 is a lot. 200 would be the number that I'd be looking for. I did this last week with Lamar and Henry, 200 + 2. Didn't get close, but I bet it. I don't remember what my odds were. I think I like plus. I think it was more. I think it was like plus 1,700.
No.
So 12-1 is not great. This is where I look in game.
Yeah, I like this one. It makes a lot of sense. Like if Hurts is healthy, I think this has a great chance. Anyway, we have.
You really want to you gotta calculate the odds. You gotta look at the odds, see if it's worth it. Like that plus 170, any player to rush for 150 yards.
Yeah,
you're basically saying, hey, I like Saquon over 125, but I'm just going to go 25 more yards and get plus 170. I mean, you got to be crazy to bet 125 at even,
right?
Or minus 10 and not take the 150. What do you think he's going to get? 128? Take a shot at 25 more yards, especially when the guy's breaking 67-yard runs like with regularity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like. Yeah, why wouldn't you do that? So I definitely like that. Although, I mean, there are sports books that offer different, alternate rushing yards. So you have to look at that too. Make sure you have the best.
I told you last week. I think I told you at the end of that game before the last drive with Baltimore. I texted you. I said, get Lamar over now. I had it at 36.5, 37.5, right? Yeah. And then you said, I don't have that. You only had 40. I'm like, take the 40 also. I bet 40, 50, and 60.
Of course.
At 40, I forgot what the odds were. At 50, I was getting good odds, like 4-1. And at 60, I was getting like 12-1. Obviously, he didn't get there. He got the first over. He got 39. So you lost by a yard.
Unbelievable. I can't. You did text me that. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm gonna bet it. I couldn't find it. It wasn't there. I'm like, I could only see 40 plus, not 38.5.
Yeah, you got.
You're like take the 40
have like
plus.
3 books open at once.
You're like, take the 40 plus. I'm like, okay, he gets 39.
I took it also.
Oh man,
that's where you can look and get the good prices. That's where
I swear I like the worst luck when it comes to that stuff. I keep highlighting this. Do you hear the Philadelphia mayor try to spell Eagles?
Yes. I didn't realize. Now I see that.
Yeah, man, that was so brutal. What a mayor you have. I don't live in Philly, so I didn't vote for her. That was something else. We have a $10 super chat from Alan Stafford. Thank you so much, Alan. Really appreciate it. This really means a lot. Like I said, the YouTube ads pay nothing, like especially now in January. So thank you so much. It says sorry for being AWOL, and no problem. Thanks for coming back. The thoughts on the safety cover on Kansas City last week. Best player prop this week. So with that safety cover, I mentioned it early in the show. when Mahomes started taking those 4 and 5 yard losses, I'm like, I think they're running backward for safety here. Like, I really thought they're going to do that because like nothing else really made much sense. Like, what are they going to do? Punt the ball away and risk a punt block or a punt return? Like, you maybe try to punt it out of bounds real quick and not get a block. Like, there's too much risk. Whereas like you run backward, it's still a 9-point game. It's still a 2-possession game. So who cares? It's not like you make an 8. If they were to make it an 8-possession game, then they wouldn't have done it because now it's just one score. But like 11-9 is meaningless. So it made a lot of sense. Now, like we had Texans plus 9.5, so we got lucky there. But we did get unlucky just seconds before that because Kaimi Fairbairn missed a 35-yard field goal. So I like when the Texans were driving down, I'm like, all right, we're good. As long as they don't turn the ball over, they're going to get a backdoor cover, either a touchdown or a field goal. Like that gets us either way. And they line up for a 35-yard field goal. And then I'm like, all right, we're good. And then just missed. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I actually like tweeted about it. I'm like, yeah, what a great way to start the weekend. And then they took the safety. I'm like, LOL, never mind. It worked out for us. It sucks for anyone who had the 8.5 instead of the 9.5, but I don't think there were any shenanigans involved. Like, you know, I don't know if people were talking about like, oh, the fix is in, they're point shaving. I thought it made sense at the time. Like I said, when they took those big losses, I'm like, I think they're going to run it back into the end zone. I've seen it before. It's happened before. So as far as best player prop this week, I will post those on Friday. But right now, I know I'm going to be on Dalton Kincaid over receiving yards. The Chiefs are so bad against tight ends. We saw it last week. Dalton Schultz went over very easily. It sucks I didn't make that the main prop in that Chiefs-Texans game. I made it Mahomes over rushing yards, which didn't hit. But like the Chiefs have been allowing tons of receiving yards to tight ends all year. And I think it's just going to keep funneling through. I think Kincaid's going to have a big game. So if I were to bet one right now, it would be Kincaid, but I haven't looked through them yet. Like that's what I do on Thursday night / Friday morning, and that's why I post them. Usually Friday morning, Friday afternoon. So I might have something different than as my top play, but I can't imagine not being on Kincaid over senior. So you can bet that right now. I don't, unless like he's injured in practice, like I will be on that. Do you have any thoughts on?
Yeah, I'll give you. I'm not betting one. See, what I've been doing is I've been packaging these same game parlays and just kind of buying the numbers that I want, and I'm playing these quarterback rushing yards overs. And when you mix them all together, you end up with a great payout. Like last week, we had Lamar over 25 yards, Allen 25. I'm not sure who hit or doesn't, but this week, I'm going to be on Allen 25 plus, Mahomes 25 plus, Jaden 25 plus. Probably leave Hurts out just because of the injury situation. But getting those 3 quarterbacks with 25 plus rushing yards, I'll probably look for a Kelsey. I don't know what they're going to line Kelsey at, but maybe play Kelsey like 60 plus passing, 60 plus receiving yards in there, because he's obviously going to be their main target. But if you go into like building an SGP, kind of cheat the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, Kelsey's 69.5, by the way.
So let's say you play Kelsey like 50 plus even, or even 40 plus. Like, see what the payouts become when you're getting 40 plus on a same game parlay. Right, go to the Kelsey alt receiving.
40 plus.
Use 50. Use 50 just out of curiosity, and go to Mahomes and Allen alt rushing. If you go to the alt rushing yards,
rushing for Mahomes, the 25.
Yeah. Thrown there, obviously you lose when he does that crap at the end when he's taking knees. Allen, I would use 40 because 700. Okay. But you maybe you go to 25, whatever. Go to Jaden Daniels. You see what Jaden Daniels is going to be, and now you have a nice payout. You're going to get like, I don't know, 7-1, 10-1, something in that ballpark. Alt rushing, and then you can kind of use this almost.
What'd you say? 40 plus?
40. Let's go to 40. Yeah, you can kind of play this with the 11, with minus 1100 with the 25. You can even go into the alt passing, although I don't really want to go into alt passing on this game given the weather. We might get snow in this game again. Mm-hmm. Maybe you go to the other game and give me like a quarterback to throw for like 150, something in that nature.
Let's throw in Kincaid receiving. Let's see what we get with him. I don't know if he's available here. Let's see. Kincaid receiving yards, 25 plus.
Perfect. There you go. 25 plus.
Now you're at 6 plus 605.
Right. So you can, but what you can do is you can kind of ladder these, like get your base, right? Your base is your Kelsey 40, Mahomes, Allen, whatever. You throw in the 25-yard rushing for some of these guys, and that's your like plus 200 or plus 300, something like that, right? And now you have a little bit of a base. Then you reload it, same bet, add another guy, add another 2 guys. Then your last one should be like, oh, let me find the touchdown score. Now I did this last week I did 2 weeks ago with 18 games, and I hit my first 12 and then lost. I forget who we lost. Was it Baker? I was Baker Mayfield passing because he can get the ball back. Hit 185 yards passing, and I needed 200 yards passing. Last week we lost 1, and the one asshole that didn't cover the number was we had Mahomes 200 passing instead of 175, and he had 177. So we lost the SGP last week, but I hit a bunch of these, and I hit like the smaller ones, and you ladder them up as you go. And some of the big ones that I lost that I almost won were the ones that had Gibbs touchdown, Saquon touchdown, because like all the guys that I thought were having touchdowns scored. Like I had ended up with 2 bets that were like $50 each that paid $23,000 and $33,000. Maybe those were $100 bets. Whatever. It's $50 or $100 bets that paid 20 and 30 grand. And very few losers in that mix. And 2 weeks ago, FanDuel was offering me a cash out. And I refused because I'm stubborn and because I'm stupid. I refused $2,000 on a cash out when I didn't think that Baker Mayfield was going to get the damn ball back. So it's the 4th quarter. Jaden's got the ball. It's 4 minutes left in the game, and I'm 12 for 12. I have one more game. It's what's his name? It's Baker, and then I'm riding into the Monday night game with 4 games left. And I refused the cash out because I'm like 66% of the way home, and they're offering me $2,000 out of 7. Thinking, you got to offer me like $3,500 or $4,000 at least, and then I'll cash out. Otherwise, I'm going to win this bet, and I'm going to move on to tomorrow. And as it turned out, I said afterwards to somebody, I'm like, I basically just bet $2,000 to win another $5,000 that Baker was going to get the ball back, which is a stupid bet because I actually thought that was a very good chance that Washington could have ended the game the way they did. So sometimes you should cash out of these big payouts, these big same game parlays. Mm-hmm. I just didn't think the payout was fair. So I said, screw you, FanDuel. I'm not taking your payout. And then they said, screw you, you lost. So my $100 bet paid 0. But I do this all the time. And you can start with a couple of lower ones. And those are the games. Those are the numbers I like. You know, you actually throwing Saquon 80. It's like I used last week with Saquon 70.
70.
Like I got Saquon 70, and I had Derrick Henry 70. I had Lamar 40. Hurts 40. Like these are some bets that hit super easily. And the one guy that lost last week was Mahomes because I used 200 yards, and in hindsight, it's probably a mistake because I figured that they were going to win the game. It's like if you throw Mahomes like 150, Allen 150, the more you add to this, you're already at 12-1 there. You have some easy bets that are minus 600, minus 1100, minus 450. But when you package them all together, you're probably going to win like 7 out of 8. But this is a great way to have some fun during these games, to get some bonuses. Throw a $25 or $50 bonus on one of these. Throw those boosts, those 30% boosts, 50% boosts, and then reload the same bet with a touchdown score and even jack up the payout even more. These are some fun ways to play these games.
I like it. Yeah, this 9 games is 15-1 almost.
There you go. 9 games, 15-1. Beautiful.
Jane Daniels 40 plus, Saquon 70 plus, Jalen Hurts 25 plus rushing, Kelsey 50 plus receiving, Mahomes 25
so there you go. And now if you were laddering this, go and add a TD score. Add Saquon as a TD score, okay. Or add Allen, or add James Cook. Right, James Cook. Add one guy, let's say from each game. If you add Saquon, watch what the payout does.
21.
This went to 22-1, right? Yeah. And if you add James Cook or Allen, one of them, you pick one. Let's say you add Allen.
Yeah, let's go Allen. Anytime plus 100 goes to 36-1.
So you're basically going to ladder this, right? So you expect you'll win one. You're taking the risk, right? Obviously, like anything else, you're taking a risk. You're throwing some money at the wall. And hopefully you get your base in. And now I've hit a bunch of these throughout the year.
Okay. You sold me.
I'll probably have at least 5 or 6 going into these games. that all you want is a shot. All you want is a chance. And you're not asking for a guy to get – you're not asking for Saquon to get 150. You're asking Saquon to go for 70 yards. You're asking Jaden to run for 40 yards. And these are – the game script. He's running in these situations.
Right.
And you also know that there's cash out potential as you move through the numbers. And it's a great way to watch a game. Like you might have Kincaid. That's fantastic. You'll win a $50 bet or a $100 bet. That's great. I mean, throw him in with this instead. Lower his number from 40 to 25. Throw him in and use him as part of your bet to win 1,800.
Yeah.
Love this stuff.
I like it.
And I really would only do this in the playoffs because, first of all, you do this in the regular season, you can get way too crazy with so many games.
I know.
And it's just not worth it.
Yeah. All it takes is one injury to derail the whole thing.
Yeah, an injury throws it off, a game script that you didn't expect, some weird shit that happens in a game that you didn't expect, and just not worth it. A playoff game, everything's on the line. The quarterbacks are running. And then in-game you can find game script type plays where the Eagles are ahead. Give me that ladder on Saquon rushing all game. And when he gets that 60-yard run, I mean, I wasn't even rooting for the Eagles. I'm watching the game. My wife, my son, they knew I'm rooting for the Rams. I'm kind of intrigued by the Rams coming back. All of a sudden, Saquon breaks the run. They go by 2 scores, and I'm cheering and I'm yelling. They're like, "What is wrong with you? Like, weren't you just rooting?" I'm like, "Yeah, about 5 minutes ago, I bet Saquon and Kyron Williams yards, and I needed 74. Now I just got 77." And then Kyron Williams on the next drive took a 2-yard loss. So I went from like 204 to 201 or 202. So when the Eagles got the ball back, I'm like, I need Saquon to get like 3 yards. I'm like, why? I'm like, I'm at 201. I was at 204. Now I'm at 201. I need some cushion. Like I already marked my bet as a winner. So I don't want to go and lose that now.
Yeah, that's as Magic Marker points out. If you had someone you don't have in this parlay, your odds go way up.
Yeah, I mean, again,
it's all correlated.
I mean, but you're not trying to throw because then you feel stupid. Like you're just trying to increase your odds. I'm going to bet Devontae Smith and Saquon's got 3 touchdowns. So
right.
Why did you put Saquon in? James Cook's going to get a touchdown, right? Saquon's going to score a touchdown. James Cook's going to get a touchdown. Allen probably get a touchdown. And Gibbs, when Gibbs plays, I mean, every week I was throwing Gibbs in. And Gibbs, how many touchdowns Gibbs had this year? 20? I probably had Gibbs scoring like 18 of those 20 times.
That's awesome. You said you wouldn't do this during the regular season. What about like a Sunday night game in the Monday?
Standalone games, I'll do it.
Yeah, okay.
Standalone games, I'll do it for fun. Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. Why not?
Okay. Awesome. All right. Anything else before we head out?
No, that's it. Let's go Buffalo. I'm rooting for Buffalo. Yeah. I haven't decided yet who I'm rooting for in another game. But the only thing I really like contest-wise, I wouldn't take Buffalo as a contest player. Last week I told you I loved Washington last week. I'd probably take Washington this week if this were a contest game. That's how much I like this bet. I think the line's too high. And like I said before, the one thing I'll close with, if Hurts is not healthy, you're taking a free roll because that line's not 6. If it's Pickett or a hobbled Hurts, this line is closer to a field goal than it is to a touchdown. So,
okay, well,
Washington plus 6.
We disagree on Eagles Redskins, but we agree on Bills Chiefs. So,
either way, we're both going to hit some same game parlay, so it's all good.
That's true. Yeah, I'll definitely post this on the site. I'll make up my mind on exactly what we're doing. I do like the laddering aspect of it, so we'll do one safe, quote unquote, safe one, and then we'll do we'll take a step up as Evan recommended. So I definitely like that a lot. Harambe saying they offered Saquon's 50-plus longest rush at 8-1. Down to plus 6 to 25 now. Obviously, there's risk with Saquon. It's got a chance. It's on Caesars. He's saying. I know you're not welcome. You're persona non grata on Caesars, but that's interesting. I think that it's plus 625 at 50-plus rush for Saquon. What do you think? Is that a good bet?
I don't know. I'd rather go with the yards.
Okay. All right, makes sense. All right, guys.
If you get the 50-plus yard rush, you're very likely hitting, some of those big ladders as you go later in the year, 200-plus or things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, commenting. Really appreciate it. Thanks especially to John Sanders for the 411, Slew for 555, and Alan Stafford for $10. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. It means a lot because January is Q1. no one's advertising. Ad rates are all-time low, so this really keeps the show going. All right, we'll be back tomorrow with Kenny. We'll be talking about something with fantasy. I'm not sure exactly. I didn't talk to Kenny yet, but we'll get into that. Evan, thanks as always for joining us, especially because you're on vacation. So thanks for taking the time to join us. Always love doing the show with
There's
you.
no casinos out here, and what else am I doing at midnight?
Fair enough. Yeah, I always look forward to these Tuesday shows. Any final thoughts before I head out?
No, let's go Buffalo.
All right, let's
Don't
go.
be a hero, Josh Allen, but be aggressive. 4th and 2.
And
go
right,
for it.
and go for it. Exactly. All right, guys, we'll be back tomorrow. Please like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. Thanks as always, guys, and I'll talk to you later.